Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday session of the California Coastal Commission. We're very happy to have you all here. We'll begin with a roll call, please.
Commissioner O'Malley. You're here. All right. Commissioner Hart. She's here. Commissioner Jackson. Here. Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Kalmick.
Here.
Commissioner Nothoff.
Here.
Commissioner Preciado.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Wilson.
100% here.
Commissioner Brownfield.
Here.
Commissioner Williams is not here yet. He'll be here later. Chair Harmon.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. With that, we will move to the virtual meeting procedures, please.
Good morning. This Coastal Commission meeting is occurring both in person and through Zoom. This meeting is also being webcast and can be viewed online at cal-span.org. If you have internet access and wish to watch or listen to the meeting only and not speak on an item, we recommend you use the CalSpan website. Those who wish to address the Commission today can do so in person, through Zoom, or by phone. The speaker request forms may be found on the Commissioner's webpage. Paper forms and a scannable QR code for paperless submittal are available on the Commission staff table just outside of the meeting room. For those on Zoom, we have posted virtual hearing procedures on the Commission's agenda webpage, which is a guide on providing comments via Zoom or by phone. Members of the public speaking during general public comment may be given up to 2 minutes to speak at the discretion of the chair. Requests to speak during the general public comment period will not be accepted after 9 a.m. on each day of the meeting. In order to provide the opportunity for the broadest range of public participation, you may speak on a specific topic one time only each month. Those speaking on an agenda item that is not general public comment are typically allowed 2 to 3 minutes to speak at the discretion of the chair. We will accept a request to speak on a regular agenda item up until the chair opens the hearing on that particular item. If you have internet access, please go to the Commission's webpage and click on the link to fill out a speaker request. If you do not have internet access or prefer to testify by phone, please call the Commission staff at 562-477-9089. Again, that number is 562-477-9089. Staff will provide you with a telephone call-in number and instructions for how to participate and provide testimony by phone. We will message speakers coming in and out of the meeting through a meeting organizer. When it is your time to address the Commission, the organizer will invite you to turn on your video and microphone or provide instructions on how to unmute the phone. Madam Chair, that concludes the virtual hearing procedures.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any agenda changes today? Sorry, Mr. Teufel.
Just bear with me for one moment. I'll just start by saying the agenda changes are posted in the online agenda. I believe there are 8 items moved to consent and 2 withdrawn. But if you give me one moment, I will walk you through the specifics.
Oh, great. 2 more, I guess.
Just one sec. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your patience. So as I said, we have 8 changes to today's agenda, all of which are noted in the agenda changes posted online. First, item 8B has been withdrawn. That's a consistency determination by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. Next, item 8C has been moved to consent, a consistency determination by the National Park Service for reconfiguring and restoration of a parking lot at Stinson Beach. Next, item 8D has been moved to consent, consistency determination by the National Marine Fisheries Service for fisheries research activities. Next, item 11A has been moved to consent for a County of Santa Barbara de minimis LCP amendment for an ADU ordinance. Next, item 11B has been moved to consent for a County of Santa Barbara de minimis LCP amendment for a mobile home overlay. Next, item 14A has been moved to consent for a City of Redondo Beach LCP amendment for electronic displays. Next, item 14B has been moved to consent for a City of Long Beach LCP amendment for home kitchen enterprises. And finally, item 16A has been withdrawn for a dispute resolution involving an application filing requirements as the dispute has been resolved. That concludes the changes to today's agenda. So that brings us to item 4, general public comment, and I'll turn the mic back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Teufel. Okay, and now this is our opportunity to hear from the public on items that are not specifically listed on the agenda. To you, thanks.
For members of the public, I will be announcing the names of the upcoming speakers and invite you to speak when it is your turn. Each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes during general public comment at the discretion of the chair. In order to allow for live video testimony on Zoom, we will be bringing you in as panelists. As we bring you in, your Zoom will reload. This may take a moment. To speed up this process, we will bring several people in at a time, but please remain muted and keep your video off until we ask you to speak. After your time is up, you will be moved back to attendee mode. For members of the public present in the room, I will call your names in the order that they appear on our sign-up list. When you hear your name, please line up behind the podium and introduce yourself when you approach to speak. There is a raise hand function that will help us find you in the attendee list. If you are using a phone for audio, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. If you are participating by Zoom, you should see a button on your Zoom screen. If you have signed up to speak for this item and are able to do so, please raise your hand now. When it is your time to speak, we will invite you to unmute and turn on your camera. You can unmute yourself on a phone by dialing *6. First up in the room, we have Maggie Hall, followed by Ashley Drager, and then Ivan Lopez. Maggie Hall.
Maggie, could you press the button on the, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Maggie Hall, Deputy Chief Counsel at the Environmental Defense Center based in Santa Barbara, and we represent Get Oil Out, the Sierra Club by and through its Santa Barbara Ventura chapter, Santa Barbara Channel Keeper, and Santa Barbara County Action Network regarding Sable's operations of the San Ynez unit, including the onshore pipelines that were restarted in March in violation of state and federal laws. I'm here today to support the Commission's recent notice of intent to commence cease and desist order and administrative penalty proceedings, and to urge the Commission to schedule the hearing as soon as possible so that Sable's unlawful operations can be addressed in a timely manner. EDC and our clients urged the Commission to require a coastal development permit prior to Sable's restart of the pipelines since last year. We supported SB 237, which clarified that a permit is required prior to restart of idle pipelines such as Sable's. Following the enactment of this law, the Commission has repeatedly notified Sable of the requirement for it to obtain a permit prior to restart. Nevertheless, Sable blatantly violated the law when it restarted the pipelines in March without first applying for a permit. We agree with Commission staff that this action is in clear violation of state law and must cease immediately. Thank you for your attention to this important issue and your commitment to protecting our coast from the risk of another major oil spill.
Thank you. Next, we have Ashley Drager, followed by Ivan Lopez, and then Les Kishler.
Good morning, Chair Harmon and Commissioners. My name is Ashley Blako Drager. I'm the Field Campaign Manager with Oceana. On behalf of our more than 137,000 California members, I would like to thank you for your leadership, both commissioners current and past, in upholding public trust values, environmental and cultural resources, biodiversity, local economies through dedicated analysis and input in federal consistency determinations. In this unprecedented and unwarranted review of California's coastal management program by the federal administration, I would like to take the opportunity to express our gratitude and support for the Commission's role in evaluating coastal projects through the lens of conservation, public access, and our blue economy. It is essential that the Commission retain the authority to weigh in as necessary, particularly when projects pose unacceptable risks to extraordinary biodiversity off of our shores, the viability of our local economies, and the health and safety of our communities. Oceana is proud to join alongside other nonprofit organizations, state agencies, and Californians across the state, providing formal public comment to NOAA, urging that California's coastal management program be upheld, both for the benefit of our state's ability to co-manage our coastal and ocean resources and for the dangerous precedent it may otherwise set for other coastal states across the nation. Thank you again for all that you do.
Thank you. Next, we have Ivan Lopez, followed by Les Kishler, and then Margalit Ezekiel. Do we have Ivan Lopez in the room? Okay, we can come back. Les Kishler.
So I need to press the button?
It's on, sir. Please
okay.
go ahead.
Hello, my name is Les Kishler. I'm a retired high school science teacher in Silicon Valley. I like to say one of my former chemistry students wrote Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. He said he started to write it while in high school. I once took a few students to Berkeley to see the scientist named Charles Keeling give a lecture on the data he was collecting at a research station in Hawaii. The most famous equation in science almost everyone knows is Einstein's E equals mc squared. Most people aren't familiar with what some call the most famous graph in science, named after Charles Keeling. This graph is called the Keeling curve. There's a line on the graph that goes across the years without much slope. And then there is a time when it spikes upward. The spike upward is called the Keeling curve. The spike upward occurs after the Industrial Revolution, when coal is being burned to make steam to run machines. Over the years, the burning of oil and natural gas has been added to the burning of coal. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, there has been an exponential increase in the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which increases global temperature. This exponential increase in carbon dioxide has resulted in and continues to result in tens of billions of metric tons of carbon dioxide added to the atmosphere each year. It's best that the California Coastal Commission doesn't add even more greenhouse gas to the atmosphere by approving more natural gas extraction from California. Thank you, and please consider the meaning of the Keeling carbon dioxide curve and be excellent to each other.
Thank you. Still looking for Ivan Lopez, if you're in the room. Seeing no one. Margalit Ezekiel.
Hello, good morning. My name is Margalit Ezekiel, and I'm here both as an individual. As an individual, I'm a mom, a retired teacher, and a long-term resident of Santa Cruz County. I've lived in Santa Cruz, California since 1982, and almost every day I go and walk along the beach or jog or ride my bike, and it is an incredible resource that you all have helped to protect for all these years, and you preserve our public's access, and you preserve the clean oceans that we all love and depend on. And I taught kindergarten. I brought 33 years worth of children down to the ocean to look and to learn and to value the ocean and all that it gives to us. I taught my daughter to love the ocean, and she's a 32-year-old woman now, and she comes and jumps into the cool, clean ocean every time she comes to visit. I'm also here as a member of the Indivisible Santa Cruz County organization that has thousands of members in our county. And we want to say that we very much support you helping to keep our coast clean. It's important for each of us as individuals. It's important to us as a community that much of our livelihood depends on tourism, which depends on keeping our coast clean, and it's important to our whole marine ecosystem. We really hope that you will continue to work to protect our oceans at a time when it's under attack. Thank you very much, and we appreciate your years of service. Thank you.
Thank you. For Jan Schreiner, if you're in the room. We're unclear if you wanted to speak for a public comment or for item 8A. Looks like public comment.
I had requested 8A.
Okay, we can call you back up. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Katie Thompson. Is it Katie Thompson?
Hi, good morning. I'm Katie Thompson. I'm Executive Director of Save Our Shores. We are a grassroots nonprofit based here in Santa Cruz and have been protecting Monterey Bay for nearly 50 years. And I'm here today to express support for the Coastal Commission and the California Coastal Management Program during this current review of the program by the federal administration. Right here in Santa Cruz County, where we are now, we are lucky enough to be next to the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, which has a vibrant waterfront. It is a place people build their lives around. It is deeply personal. Families walk the beaches, surfers paddle out before work, and kids explore their first tide pools. A protected, accessible coast is daily life here. Save Our Shores has been close to this community since our founding. We know how much residents want a coast they can visit and enjoy. We receive about 5,000 volunteers annually who show up for beach cleanups. And they do it because they're adamant about what this coast means to them. And we have this relationship with our coast thanks to California's successful coastal management program. For decades, the program has approved the vast majority of projects, objecting only to those with documented harm. The program is working as intended, and it is not an obstruction. I'm constantly impressed with how the Coastal Commission delicately balances economic development and environmental conservation. It keeps beaches accessible and healthy for future generations and for everyone. The Commission is fair, keeping all stakeholders in mind. So on behalf of Save Our Shores and our thousands of volunteers and Monterey Bay residents, we stand in support of the California Coastal Program. Thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you. We'll be moving to Zoom for Steve Worthington, followed by Nathan Starkey, and then Ian Pollitt. First up, we have Steve Worthington. Please go ahead.
Good morning, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Steve Worthington. I have provided Coastal Commission staff and commissioners with written materials identifying concerns regarding the East Beach mooring field expansion particularly the replacement of existing western seasonal anchorage with year-round mooring use. The loss of the high public use access is not a minor or incidental issue. The Commission's own 2022 record describes the seasonal anchorage near Stearns Wharf as accommodating, quote, up to 45 boats, the most convenient place for visitors to anchor and free of charge, end quote. Sadly, the 2025 amendment does not merely add 17 moorings. It replaces the existing western seasonal anchorage with exclusive year-round rental mooring field. That changes the form, conditions, and economic accessibility of public coastal water access. For traditional boaters, especially day users, rental costs, additional time, fuel consumption, and harbor traffic will discourage use. I have identified specific factual and legal concerns with the Commission's prior immaterial determination. I ask that the underlying facts and legal basis be independently examined against actual consequences of this project. My Public Records Act request remains pending, so I do not claim to possess the complete administrative record. I also ask that the Commission independently verify information supplied by other agencies concerning the project's scope, public access, environmental effects, and legal characterization. This project has been piecemealed without much, if any, public analysis. It is time to clean this up through the appropriate CEQA process, including an EIR, given this clear change in use. Please provide the analysis to the public. Retain the high-use seasonal anchorage. Do not convert Area C. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Nathan Starkey, followed by Ian Pollitt, and then Graham M. Martin Sotaro. Nathan Starkey, please go ahead.
Good morning, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Nathan Starkey. Please take a look at this map of the East Beach area of Santa Barbara. Note Stearns Wharf on the left or west side of this map.
Just a moment. Just a moment. We're going to have you hold just a moment. The image you sent us, we have to rotate it. Just a moment, please.
Everybody would have been like this. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Starkey. You can go ahead and continue, please. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, commissioners and member of the public. My name is Nathan Starkey. Please take a look at this map of East Beach area of Santa Barbara. Note Stearns Wharf on the left or west side of this map. If you look at the map of state of California, lease 8688, there is one point I want everyone to understand. Areas A, B, and C are not the same. Area B is the year-round permitted mooring field. It was established in 2006 as part of the East Beach Mooring Anchoring Program. Area A is a year-round anchoring area, and Area C is a seasonal anchorage area. The trapezoid area just north of Area C is what is known as the seasonal anchorage. The State Lands Commission original lease documents specifically distinguish these uses. Then further to the east is the area commonly referred to as the graveyard or county line. That location is critical. The Graveyard County Line area is more than 2 miles east of Stearns Wharf out in the open Santa Barbara Channel. This area is not protected by the sheltering effect of the harbor breakwater, wharf, and Ledbetter Point. It is directly exposed to open channel wave and storm conditions. We have made a Public Records Act request to the city of Santa Barbara asking the city to verify the data showing that 35 and possibly 37 of the 37 boats reported as coming ashore since 2008 originated from the Graveyard County Line area. We are asking the city to verify that number so that everyone can understand what is true and what may be an inaccurate narrative. The map matters because the truth matters. Before we make policy decisions, we need to understand exactly where these incidents are occurring and what conditions exist in each area. That is the first question we are asking. Let's separate these areas, verify the data, and look at the actual evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ian Pollitt, followed by Graham M. Martin Sitaro, and then Don Blahowiak. Ian Pollitt, you should be able to speak now.
Good morning, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Ian Pollitt. I want to focus on two conclusions that deserve scrutiny. That is, the change is immaterial and that there is no change in public benefit. This is not simply adding 17 moorings. The proposal would eliminate this high-use seasonal public anchorage and replace it entirely with a year-round field of rental moorings. Today, Area C remains a seasonal anchorage serving recreational boaters, fishing boats, and other watercraft conveniently located near Stearns Wharf and harbor facilities. This is an important distinction in the State Lands Commission's own records. In 2021, the State Lands Commission identified Area B as individually permitted moorings, while Areas A and C were open to the public at no cost, with Areas A and C designated for public use and benefit, quote unquote. Now, the 2026 amendment proposes 17 mooring buoys in Area C, changing the public anchorage to rental moorings. That is a change in use, public access, economic access for recreational boaters, especially day users. Rental costs, additional time, fuel consumption, and harbor traffic can discourage use. Instead of anchoring directly, a boater must enter the harbor, navigate confined waters, go to harbor patrol, register, and pay. It's actually a very difficult harbor to navigate. The city confirms that visiting vessels must check in at the Harbor Patrol accommodation dock, provide vessel registration and documentation, and pay visitor fees in advance. That matters under Santa Barbara's 2019 Coastal Land Use Plan, which states the harbor shall be a working harbor with priority for commercial fishing and recreational boating for all users and income groups. So I ask, where is the documented analysis supporting no change in public benefit? This information has been requested through a Public Records Act request. We have heard narratives, but hearsay and assertions are not evidence. The project has been piecemealed without a comprehensive public analysis. It is time to clean this up with professional, honest, transparent analysis through the appropriate CEQA process, including EIR, given this clear change.
Thank you.
Provide this analysis to the
Next, we have Graham Martin Sitaro, followed by Don Blowiak, and then Cindy Belkowicz. So Graham Martin Sitaro, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Madam Chair, Commissioners, pursuant to the Public Resource Code Section 30801, I formally object to the Executive Director's determination that the CDP Amendment 4210204A1 is immaterial. I have submitted a formal written demand to the Commission documenting these violations, and I appear before you today to present that demand. This amendment converts Area C, Santa Barbara's only free public seasonal anchorage, capacity 45 boats, into 17 fee-based commercial moorings. This determination is erroneous as a matter of law under 14 CCR 13166B. If the applicant or objector so requests, the Commission shall make an independent determination as to whether the proposed amendment is material. Any written objection automatically triggers material treatment. The amendment is undeniably material. It lessens or avoids the intended effect of the original 2005 CD, which expressly preserved Area C as a free anchorage, the most convenient place for visitors to anchor, referring to the 9 moorings on city's grant land inside the protected area. This project violates 3 core coastal provisions. Section 30210 eliminates maximum public access, replacing it with minimum access for maximum revenue. Section 30211 interferes with the acquired rights of access established over centuries of continuous use. Section 30213, the Coastal Act, mandates the protection of lower cost visitors and recreational facilities. Replacing the free anchorage with fee-based moorings directly violates that mandate. Therefore, I formally demand that the commissions accept this objection, make an independent materiality determination under 13166B, rescind the immaterial determination, and agendize a public hearing. The commission's own 2025 notice claims no adverse impacts to public access and promises to continue seasonal anchoring opportunities. Both claims are directly contradicted by the commission's 2005 staff report, which documented Area C as an important recreational resource serving visitors not wishing to pay the harbor's daily use fees. The amendment eliminates the very anchorage the commission constitutes formal notice to the commission of these specific violations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next, we have Don Blahowiak, followed by Cindy Belkowicz, and then Penelope Lapalm. Don Blahowiak, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Don Blahowiak of Marina with a familiar issue, the crisis in safe coastal access to Point Lobos. While reading the Coastal Act, I was struck by this significant fact. The law requires that maximum access to the coast must be safe access. Access to Point Lobos is not safe. Next slide, please. Through July, as many people visited Point Lobos as in all of 2025, according to state parks. That was another record year after many record years. Exponential visitation is what we're seeing. The result? Hundreds of thousands must park on the highway. Then families, the elderly, mobility challenged are forced to walk dangerously in highway traffic, not along the highway, in the highway, risking their lives, dodging cars and trucks, speeding just inches from them. That is not safe access to the coast. Unsafe conditions deny access. That violates the Coastal Act. Maximum access must be safe access. Next slide, please. Respectfully, I ask two things of you. One, support the reservation and shuttle system for Point Lobos, known as Park-It. Two, understand that a more comprehensive solution, such as new parking lots, is a good 10 years away. 10 years. With 2 minutes, I have more details than time, but in short, the planning, reviews, approvals, construction easily will take a decade. Such a project also costs tens of millions of unfunded dollars. Next slide, please. Meantime, we need the reservation and shuttle system. Please support Park-It. Waiting for a perfect solution condemns millions of Californians to unsafe or no access to the coast. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Next, we have Cindy Belkowicz, followed by Penelope Lapalm, and then G. Venkatesh. Cindy Belkowicz, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Cindy Belkowicz, the Director of the Pennington Marine Science Center at Camp Emerald Bay on Catalina Island. Thank you for the opportunity to briefly share more about the work happening at Emerald Bay. Camp Emerald Bay is a special place. For over 100 years, we've helped young people connect with the ocean and develop a deeper understanding of California's coastal ecosystems. Each summer, thousands of scouts and youth from across California come to Emerald Bay to explore the ocean, conduct marine science experiments, and experience firsthand what it means to be a steward of our natural resources. Today, that mission continues through hands-on marine science education and active conservation efforts. Our students don't just learn about marine biology in a classroom, they experience it in the wild firsthand, observing restoration efforts and leaving with a deeper appreciation for our ecosystem. At the Pennington Marine Science Center, we're expanding several important restoration initiatives in partnership with leading conservation organizations. One of our newest efforts is the White Abalone Recovery Project in partnership with NOAA Fisheries. White abalone are one of California's most endangered marine species, and we're proud to support their recovery, monitoring, and long-term conservation efforts. We're also launching a white sea bass restoration project with Hubs Research Institute, through which students and emerging marine scientists will participate directly in aquaculture and conservation work. They'll gain hands-on experience in fish husbandry, water quality monitoring, sustainable fisheries, and marine ecosystem restoration, while contributing to the recovery of an iconic California species. Together, these programs are inspiring the next generation of marine scientists, conservationists, and environmental stewards, while contributing to the long-term health of California's coastal ecosystems. Emerald Bay is proud to be a partner in protecting and understanding California's coastal resources. We're grateful for the opportunity to continue this work on Catalina Island and to show the Commission what we do. We'd love the opportunity to show you our work in action by hosting members of the Commission at Emerald Bay so you can see firsthand this impact and role the island plays in connecting people.
Thank you. Next we have Penelope Lapalm, followed by G. Venkatesh, and then Anastasia Kamaravask. Penelope Lapalm, please go ahead. Ms. Lapalm, please go ahead.
Here,
There we
let's
go.
try this. Now you can hear me. Is that correct?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. My name is Penelope Lapalm. Thank you for letting me speak to you, and I commend your efficiency. I want to support the Coastal Commission and thank you for all of your work. I oppose efforts to start fracking in the Pacific Ocean. I believe the equipment is old and in poor shape. It would open new pockets of oil and gas and create risk for oil spills.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Global warming, warming our oceans and marine.
Ma'am, I believe that you would like to speak on item 8A today, so we'll move on to the next.
All right. We have G. Venkatesh, followed by Anastasia Kamaravask, and then Lena Bravo. So, Ven, if you could start your video and then go ahead.
Hi, my name is G. Venkatesh, Ren. Different from other topics people have been speaking about. Thank you to the commissioners to giving me the opportunity. I want to talk about a Car Week event that is planned at 174 Spindrift Road in the Carmel Highlands. Next slide. Yeah, this property is a low-density neighborhood. It's next to a protected cove. The organizer and the owners have tried multiple times to get a permit to host a large event, and they've been denied multiple times. Setup started Sunday without a permit. Suddenly, yes, a couple of days ago, Coastal Commission jumped in. One of the staff said no permit was needed and instructed the county to issue the building permit. When I called, I was told by the CCC staff, suck it up. This is the house where the, next slide, please. This is the house where the event is being held. This is not a commercial event site. Coastal Commission may have been told they were going to host a small dinner party. Next slide. It is a narrow road, and you can already see the amount of traffic congestion that is going to happen. No parking signs all over, just so that they can have a 3 or 4 day event for a commercial entity. Next slide, please. This is the setup that's going on in the backyard. There's going to be huge TV screen, 1,000 amp speakers. Lalo Tequila is, serving booze at this party, and lights on all the time. Is this a corporate, event, or is this a family dinner party for a small group? Next slide, please. And this was the light show we've been seeing the last couple of nights. Red lights all over. This shocks me with the fire going on in Big Sur that they don't even have the good taste to pick a different color. It looks like the trees are on fire. This is just awful. Next one, please. I request,
Thank you.
there was no hearing, request that, this thing be desisted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. For Ann Kamaravask, we're trying to promote you to a panelist. Please go ahead and accept. for, there we go. Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Yep, understood. Yes, we'll be happy to move you to item, we'll be happy to move you, yes. We'll be happy to move you to item A to A, and you can speak on that item. Thank you. All righty. Next up, we have Lena Bravo. Lena, you should have been promoted to panelist. Please go ahead and accept. You should be able to speak.
I inadvertently signed up for the wrong agenda item. I also am on.
Hello, can you hear me? Great, thank you. So Art Story is my free educational program that teaches families and children about wildlife conservation and historic preservation throughout the world. I'm in La Jolla right now, and I have been for the past 5 years, where I have repeatedly received citations and harassed while conducting my educational work. I've received more than 40 citations, primarily displaying my artwork outside of a designated area, and the retaliation I have received has been detrimental. One incident escalated to illegal detention from a ranger and police involvement, giving me a traffic violation ticket, but police officers did not appear in court and the entire case was missed. The citations continued after as if nothing had happened. After years of being told where to go and not conduct my educational work, vendors are back now at the park. Next slide, please. Then after the giving of the tickets was banned. Oh, next slide. Oh, the slide is scrolling. Then after giving of the tickets was banned, a day camp person, they started allowing him to camp right next to where I teach. And he started harassing me, and I reportedly reported this to the park rangers, and emails have gone unanswered when they tell me they have seen him, that they have removed him from the park multiple times. They have called the police. The police have removed him from the park from the harassment that I have experienced, and still emails go unanswered. They asked me to call. I text them. Next slide, please. That's a little bit of the information that I teach at the park. I've documented all of these incidences, and meanwhile, the stress has been devastating. The consequences of my health and livelihood, I've experienced a nervous system collapse from all the prolonged stress. I've been hospitalized in and out of the hospital on life support. I've developed an autoimmune disease from all of the stress, and I don't know which one because I don't have the time or money to go back to the doctor to know which one it is. I'm asking for accountability, equal access, and protection at educational work. This may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. Next slide. My GoFundMe is there. Please help.
responding to Ms. Beatty's comments and the concerns she raises. To summarize, many of Ms. Beatty's concerns relate to the proposed use of acoustic survey equipment and the underwater sound it would generate. Staff has evaluated those concerns and provided in the addendum additional information received from the applicant regarding the equipment and sound levels that would be used. Our review indicates that the equipment is commonly used low-energy survey equipment that is not anticipated to adversely affect marine mammals or other wildlife. I believe Ms. Beatty has signed up to speak as well this morning, but based on the information she has provided so far, staff continues to recommend that the Commission vote and approve the consistency determination and other consent calendar items. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any ex partes? Okay. Public comments, Galen.
Yes, we have Isabel Dawson, and Nina Beatty is signed up to speak. We're not seeing her in the Zoom webinar. So Ms. Beatty, if you can hear us, please do raise your hand so we can find you. First up, speaking on item 8C, we have Isabel Dawson. Ms. Dawson, you should be able to go ahead.
Good morning. I'm speaking on 8C. My name is Isabel Dawson with the Environmental Action Committee of West Marin. We're based in Point Reyes Station, representing around 1,200 community members. Our mission is to protect and sustain the unique lands, waters, and biodiversity of West Marin. We support Consistency Determination CD 0000825, which would restore native habitat, repair flood damage, and improve coastal hazard resiliency at the Stinson Beach parking lots. Stinson Beach is heavily impacted by sea level rise and the heavy winter storms and storm surge that will become more common with climate change. In 2018, East Coot Creek overflowed and caused significant damage to the parking lot, washing out spaces. Winter storm surge in 2023 caused widespread damage to the community and also contributed to erosion at the parking lot. These events required costly repairs to make the parking lot functional and accessible again. We're pleased to see nature-based restoration and the enhancement of native dune, floodplain, and riparian habitats. This project will improve climate and coastal resiliency and maintain public access to one of the most popular coastal recreation areas in the North Bay. The loss of 10% of the parking spaces does present a challenge for the community and public access on the days when lot capacity is reached, as cars often spill over into the community where they shouldn't. However, we understand that the remaining parking spaces will be better protected from inundation, erosion, and other flooding impacts. Thus, we support MPS's effort to coordinate with Marin Transit, including wider promotion of bus routes to the beach. We also suggest NPS reach out to local organizations to help amplify that message. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, once again for Nina Beatty, if you can hear us, please go ahead and raise your hand in the webinar. Okay, still seeing nothing. The other individuals are available for questions only. No more speakers.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. With that, I will return to the commission, begin with Commissioner Wilson.
Thanks, Ed. Some questions about the lighted digital sign amendments. So the first is, I'm always trying to compare these to the standards for the dark sky standards. And the first one of these is in terms of typically they require some sort of shielding that doesn't seem to be in this ordinance. Also, the ordinance doesn't seem to have any, and maybe I'm wrong, but when I looked at it, it doesn't have a lums or like a brightness limitation. It just says shall not result in unacceptable light intensity and glare. So there's no measurement by which then that where that is and who decides that, I guess. And then there doesn't seem to be any so for the maximum color temperature, it just says white light, and typically especially in resource areas and just even for humans in general, it's really unhealthy for us to be consuming those brighter lights in general. And so 3,000 Kelvin is the typical number. We're using it often. It's a standard now in terms of lighting. And so I'm just kind of wondering, where do we go from here on this? Because for me, it's like I think we can do better.
Thank you. Yeah, those are all good questions. It does not include any special shielding.
The LCP amendment did not include a cap on lumens. It does include the provision that you mentioned, that it shall not result in unacceptable light intensity and glare impacting surrounding property. I would also note a few additional factors that we weighed as part of our analysis. One is that it does limit it to the warmer colors in order to minimize adverse impacts, but it chiefly accomplishes that through requiring any signs to obtain authorization from their design review committee. It also requires black background with primarily white lettering, with the exception that it allows colors also only through their design review committee. Now, we did not require or discuss with the city dark sky compliance in this particular case, and the commission and staff have supported that and pioneered the use of dark sky compliant signage in other areas, and we do so on a case-by-case basis, primarily in areas where we're concerned with the urban-rural interface. In this particular case, we did not go that deep, given that this is an urban area in Redondo Beach, so sort of in the heart of LA. The amendment also limits these signs in this particular case to only public institutional sites, so only projects that are within a public institutional area. And this particular amendment is only for up to 5 signs, so replacement of an existing non-electronic sign at the entrance to their harbor, but not highly visible from water areas or beach areas. And then 4 sort of wayfinding signs within clusters of buildings also within the harbor. So we do not believe that these signs have that same potential for adverse impacts, although we do support the concept of dark skies. The way we weighed this particular amendment is that given the background lighting that exists within Redondo and the urban nature of the area, we do not feel is necessary in this particular case.
Appreciate that. And I will note that cities in Florida and cities in other places that have urban lighting that adjacent to the ocean take these things really seriously. It's not, I get it that it's like this is one in the mix of all, but the question is when Redondo Beach comes for an amendment in the future for, say, their lighting ordinance, and we want, and we encourage them to consider dark skies to protect the coastal resources, then this is sort of left out there, right? Because you're doing every project, every new thing that's coming along. So from my perspective, it's like, we should, even though it's small, this is where you start, right? And if this passes today, which it probably will because it's on consent, and I'm not proposing to pull it necessarily, I would request that we at least send a letter to the design review committee for Redondo Beach to let them know that if there's concerns around this and there's an opportunity, because all it is a all you have to do is specify this, and all that equipment exists. And it doesn't cost any more. It doesn't cost any more to protect our night skies from this type of pollution, and not just the skies, but the critters and the humans that have to interact with these lights. So that's my request. And just to highlight, I'm gonna, me, I'll just keep pushing on this because I think it's important. So thanks.
Right, and through the chair, I would just note staff would be more than happy and would plan on sending that letter to the city requesting them to take into account these dark sky compliant, although not true dark sky compliant, these exact issues in order to minimize impacts to public views and lighting.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Nada.
Yeah, I wanted to address the underwater noise pollution issues, and I appreciate the public for bringing that highlighting that. It looks in reviewing the addendum in particular that appreciate that staff has gone the extra step to incorporate additional information and data in our documents, and I can support this at this time, but I do appreciate, put a pin in making sure that we're taking a close look at acoustic impacts to marine life. which is really there's a heavy burden for them to bear. And this is, something that we need to keep an eye on. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? A motion?
I'll move approval of the items removed from the consent calendar.
Thank you. That's a motion.
Can I just be clear? You said she moved the
Removed
items.
from the regular
Thank you.
calendar to the consent calendar, excuse me.
And just for the record, I'll be voting no just for this one item. Thanks.
Understood. Thank you. That's a motion by Commissioner Nodoff, a second by Commissioner Lopez. Any objections to unanimous oh, sorry.
Yes,
You
I
just
just
said that.
told you my
I'll do a
objection.
roll call.
All right. And that was motion by Nothoff and second by Lopez, correct? Okay. O'Malley?
Yes.
O'Malley, yes. Hart?
Yes.
Hart, yes. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Jackson, yes. Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Kalmick?
Aye.
Kalmick, yes. Commissioner Nothoff?
Aye.
Nothoff, yes. Commissioner Preciado?
Yes.
Preciado, yes. Commissioner Wilson?
No.
Wilson, no. Chair Harmon?
Yes.
Harmon, yes. The vote is 9 yes, 1 no.
Thank you very much. The motion carries. Okay, now we'll continue on. Item 7, please, Mr. Teufel.
Thank you. Item 7 is the Deputy Director report for the Energy, Ocean Resources, and Federal Consistency Division. We have 12 negative determination concurrences to report this month and 1 immaterial permit amendment, a proposal by the Grassy Bar Oyster Company in Morro Bay to install and operate an upwelling raft. I want to note that one of the negative determinations was first reported last month in July, but is being reported again today to provide an additional opportunity for public comment. The negative determination was submitted by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for a project on the Farallon Islands National Wildlife Refuge, intended to upgrade a water catchment cistern and facilitate the transition from year-round to seasonal staffing. It's our understanding that federal budget cuts have triggered the need for staffing reductions, and the Fish and Wildlife Service is planning to secure and protect buildings on the island for when staff are not present. We've received 2 email comments on this project raising a variety of questions. Staff has met with the commenters to provide additional information and confirm the scope of the proposed work with the Fish and Wildlife Service. We continue to support the service's determination that the project would not adversely affect coastal resources. I believe that we have several members of the public signed up to speak on this item. Beyond that, staff is not aware of any speakers or opposition to these items, and following the public comment, we would ask whether 3 or more commissioners object to the immaterial permit amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any ex partes? Okay, I will turn to Galen for public comment.
Okay, we have 2 available for questions. Then we have on Zoom, Susan Kirks, Ann Cantrell, and Nancy Okada. Susan Kirks, should be able to go ahead. All right, here she comes now. Susan Kirks, you've been promoted to a panelist. You should be able to unmute and go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harmon, Vice Chair Hart, and Commissioners. I'm Susan Kirk today on the Farallon Islands proposed project by the Fish and Wildlife Service. I appreciate the staff bringing this back this month, and indeed, some of us did meet via Zoom with your staff members. But the questions do remain unanswered. This project proposal should trigger a NEPA review. The general description by the Fish and Wildlife Service includes several potential negative impacts to the marine life, to the seabirds, and to wildlife on the southeast Farallon Islands. We still are unclear about the transition plan and the phases that are described. The equipment to be used, including jackhammering, which produces ground vibration and noise, both of which have not been evaluated, and there really should be a third-party biologist to conduct studies prior to this being initiated in any phase to determine the impact from so-called careful hazing, which has not been delineated or really understood, for the permit to harass marine mammals all out on the Southeast Carolina Island, helicopter impact, and from the other identified marine life and ground life on the Southeast Carolina Island that was never identified and evaluated in a prior project EIS, some of which you all are
Thank you,
familiar.
ma'am.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ann Cantrell, followed by Nancy Okada, and then we're looking for Leslie Purcell, if you can raise your hand. So next up, Ann Cantrell, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ann Cantrell, I'm with the Sierra Club Coastal Committee, and we are concerned about this project not having adequate NEPA and bird studies, marine life studies, jackhammering and helicopters are certainly going to create a lot of noise and vibration, and we question whether this is necessary to secure these buildings. I would appreciate if the commissioners would take a closer look at this, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Nancy Okada.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I spoke at the recent NOAA hearings about the Coastal Zone Management Act, the CZMA, and its importance, informing the public about what is going on with federal projects on our coast. Thank you, Coastal Commissioners, for protecting our right to know. What I didn't get to say was regarding the Farallon Islands. Off San Francisco's coast, they are unique, craggy, and are home to an exceptional assortment of birds, pinnipeds, and other wildlife who live in their isolated and harsh climate. The recent negative determination the Commission approved last month is for repairs to housing structures, demolition, and replacement of a water structure. Helicopters will be used instead of the usual boat transit to the island. This, the Fish and Wildlife applicant says, is part of a quote unquote transitional plan that is not well defined. In fact, the letter to the Coastal Commission says to staff that, quote, they do not require a consistency determination. The CZMA and staff information helps us, the public, better understand the federal government's plan for this remote island. We submitted questions to coastal staff in hopes of answers. We haven't received written answers and would appreciate that document. Whether this federal request involves installation of military equipment, protecting oil leases, or expanding government-funded research, the Coastal Commission can provide this information to the public. Thus, the public is given access to the information it would otherwise not have available. The Coastal Commission partnership use of the CZMA means effective government engagement, meaning that all parties are heard, the public, the local and state and federal government. Thank you again for protecting our coast.
Thank you. And we're still looking for Leslie Purcell. Ms. Purcell, if you can hear me, please go ahead and raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. Seeing no one, no more speakers. Madam Chair?
Okay, thank you very much. I'll see, Mr. Teufel, would you like to respond, or shall I bring it back to the commission?
Just quickly, appreciate the commenters and their attention and focus on this. I appreciate the questions that they've raised. I just want to provide confirmation that this is not part of a military activity or oil and gas. We've confirmed that multiple times with the Fish and Wildlife Service. This is purely as described in the negative determination to secure these structures.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Okay, I'll return to the commission. Comments, questions? Seeing none, do 3 or more commissioners object to any item in the Deputy Director's report? Seeing no such objection, the commission concurs. Okay, let's continue on, please. Mr. Teufel.
Thank you. That brings us to item 8A. The staff presentation will be provided by the Commission's Oil Spill Program Coordinator, Jonathan Bishop.
Madam Chair. I'm going to have to recuse myself from this item. I received a settlement as part of a class action lawsuit filed against Decor after an oil spill from its pipeline that impacted Huntington Beach and Seal Beach in 2021. Therefore, in an abundance of caution, I'm recusing myself from this item Thursday 8A Decor due to potential conflict of interest under Government Code Section 87100. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Back to you, Mr. Bishop.
All right. Before Mr. Bishop begins, I'd like to make a couple introductory comments. The first is that we had agendized this item as part of a combined hearing with item 8B, as I noted during the agenda changes earlier. The 2 items are for the same offshore fracking project, but one was submitted by Decor, the company proposing the activity, and the other was submitted by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, one of the federal agencies responsible for overseeing it. As described in our staff recommendation in response to the BOEM submittal, the appropriate review process for this project is through the consistency certification prepared by Decor. The project is not a federal agency activity, and it would be inappropriate to review it as such. We appreciate that BOEM has acknowledged this and withdrawn its consistency determination. Today's hearing will therefore focus solely on Decor's consistency certification. The second note I would like to make is in regard to the scope of the proposed project under consideration today. While the analysis provided by Decor in its consistency certification is limited to only the proposed fracking process, as you will hear in our presentation and acknowledge in the staff report and recommendation, the fracking process and its reasonably foreseeable subsequent effects need to be considered. Specifically, this means that the effects of increased oil production and intensified and extended operations of Decor's offshore facilities that would result from the proposed fracking activities also need to be evaluated. That's what we've done in the staff report and will summarize for you in this presentation. Finally, I would like to acknowledge my appreciation to both Decor and BOEM staff for their forthright engagement and cooperation during the course of our review process. While we didn't arrive at the recommendation I expect they were hoping for, their open communications with us and information sharing was critical to allowing us to complete a complicated review process well in advance of the regulatory deadlines. And with that, I'll hand the mic over to Mr. Bishop.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. As noted, item 8A is a consistency certification submitted by Decor LLC or Decor for a proposal to increase and extend oil and gas production in the offshore Santa Clara oil field by conducting hydraulic fracturing, commonly known as fracking, on 16 existing wells at Platform Gilda. Platform Gilda is an oil platform that was originally installed in 1981, approximately 9 miles offshore of Ventura in federal waters. It has been operated by Decor since 2005. Next slide, please. This slide shows the location of Platform Gilda in the Santa Barbara Channel. Oil and natural gas produced from the platform's wells are transported to the shore through C4 pipelines installed in the early 1980s, shortly after the platform was constructed. The pipelines transport oil and gas to Decor's Mandalay onshore facility in coastal Oxnard. The platform and its associated pipelines have been operating continuously since the early 1980s. The project does not propose construction of a new platform, new pipelines, or new production wells. Instead, the proposed increase in production would be achieved through the fracking of existing wells and intensified use of existing infrastructure and facilities. The proposed fracking program would occur over a 5-year period and is intended to increase production from approximately 1,100 barrels of oil per day to approximately 4,000 barrels per day. The environmental impact statement prepared for the project by BOEM projects that Decor's fracking will result in the extraction of approximately 4 million barrels of oil and 3 million cubic feet of natural gas over the next 20 years, while extending the economic life of the platform and associated infrastructure. The project area and surrounding Santa Barbara Channel region includes some of the most ecologically significant and protected ocean waters on the entire west coast of the United States. This area includes a national marine sanctuary, national park, state and federal marine reserves and conservation areas, critical habitat for threatened and endangered species, federally designated biologically important areas for whales, essential fish habitats, highly productive fishing grounds, and one of the country's 2 internationally recognized whale heritage areas. Many of these protections were established in the years following Platform Gilda's installation in 1981. Next slide, please. For those who may not be familiar with offshore hydraulic fracturing, this diagram prepared by staff shows the basic process. This diagram is a general depiction only and is not meant for specifically to represent this project. During a fracking treatment, filtered seawater is mixed with sand or ceramic material and chemical additives. That mixture is then pumped through an existing well at very high pressure to create fractures in the targeted underground rock formation several thousand feet below the seafloor. The sand or ceramic material remains behind within the fractures and helps hold them open, creating improved pathways for oil and natural gas to flow into the well. In this case, specialized closed-loop equipment is proposed to be temporarily mobilized to Platform Gilda for these operations. The proposed program includes 38 fracking stages across 16 existing wells in alternating years over the 5-year program. Fracking operations would not be continuous and would be carried out on up to 6 wells per year, taking roughly 14 days per year to complete. Fracking fluids are proposed to be routed through the closed-loop handling system, retained on the platform, and then disposed of below ground by injecting them into the existing wells. Some fracking fluids would also be extracted along with the oil, separated from that oil at Decor's onshore facility, and then sent back to Platform Gilda to be discharged into the ocean along with other separated water. After the fracking treatments, all the equipment would be removed from the platform and the flow of oil would be expected to increase. That oil would be directed to Platform Gilda and then through its associated seafloor oil pipeline to the offshore processing facility on the coast of Oxnard. Platform Gilda and its associated pipelines and infrastructure are among the older operating oil platform facilities in California waters, having been in continuous use for roughly 45 years, more than twice the duration expected when originally authorized by the Commission. At the time of the original approval, the platform and its associated infrastructure were anticipated to have been operating for approximately 18 years. Production of oil and gas from the Santa Clara unit has already far exceeded the total volume originally expected to be available. Platform Grace, the other platform historically used to access the Santa Clara unit, has already ceased operating due to declining production and is now being decommissioned. Production from Platform Gilda has fallen to approximately 1,100 barrels of oil per day, a level that may not be sustainable if oil prices decline and the costs of operating the aging facility increase. As acknowledged in BOEM in the project EIS, without fracking, production at Platform Gilda would continue to decline and eventually cease. Fracking is not new to Platform Gilda. Information submitted by Decor indicates that previous operators, including Decor, carried out 28 fracking treatments on 14 wells between 1986 and 2014. Commission staff is not aware of records indicating that those previous fracking projects underwent either Coastal Zone Management Act or NEPA review, or that notification of them was provided to the Commission or the public by the platform operators or BOEM. Commission staff is in the process of gathering additional information about those fracking efforts and their potential effects on coastal resources. I'd also note that there was significant litigation surrounding some of these prior fracking operations and their authorization by BOEM. The Commission was party to some of this litigation, and it resulted in a decision by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that prevented BOEM from authorizing additional fracking until both NEPA and federal consistency reviews were completed. We understand that DECOR submitted its current consistency certification in part to respond to this court decision. Next slide, please. Staff is recommending that the Commission object to DECOR's project today based on its inconsistency with several enforceable policies of the CCMP. These include policies protecting marine resources and water quality, commercial and recreational fishing, public access and recreation, and addressing coastal hazards. But the central focus of our analysis is the CCMP's Hazardous Material Spill Policy, Section 30232. This section applies to any project that involves oil and gas development or transportation. It establishes two independent requirements. First, that protection be provided against the spillage of crude oil, petroleum products, and hazardous substances. Second, that effective containment and cleanup of facilities and procedures be provided for any spills that do occur. The second requirement recognizes that accidental spills may occur even where preventative measures are in place. In order for a project to be consistent with this policy, both requirements must be met. Before applying these two tests, however, it's important to identify the reasonably foreseeable effects that could occur because of the proposed fracking activity. Next slide, please. Under the federal consistency regulations, the Commission is to consider not only the immediate effects of the proposed project, but also the reasonably foreseeable direct and indirect effects that may occur as a result of that project. Here, those reasonably foreseeable effects include increased oil production and transport, intensified use of existing wells, platform equipment and pipelines, and extended period of operation of Platform Gilda's oil production infrastructure, and consequently, an increase in the likelihood and severity of potential spills. That increased spill severity comes from the 4 times greater volume of oil that would flow through DECOR's facility and pipeline as a result of the project. DECOR has proposed a substantial range of measures to protect against spills. Those include continued structural and pipeline inspection and maintenance, corrosion monitoring and mitigation, leak detection and emergency shutdown systems, the closed-loop handling of stimulation fluids and flowback, operating procedures and personal training, as well and well-specific integrity testing before individual stimulation treatments. Staff recognizes these as important prevention measures and that they meet the first requirement of Section 30232, that protection against spills be provided. However, even with these measures, the risk of a spill would only be reduced and not eliminated. Spills could still come from wells and wellheads, pressure control equipment, pumps and valves, platform equipment, flow lines and seafloor pipelines, transfer operations, or supporting vessels. Potential causes include corrosion, equipment malfunction, loss of well control, pipeline failure, operated error, maintenance activities, vessel incidents, and severe weather. Recent spill incidents, including several involving DECOR facilities, also demonstrate that inspection, integrity management, and safety systems cannot eliminate the risks of oil spills. Given that spill risk cannot be eliminated, Section 30232 contains a second independent requirement: effective containment and cleanup facilities and procedures for accidental spills that do occur. Next slide, please. DECOR's spill response strategy relies primarily on its regional oil spill response plan. This plan includes trained response organizations, pre-positioned fast response vessels with boom and skimming systems, shoreline protection strategies, aerial surveillance, and other response techniques. However, the question is not simply whether equipment would be provided or whether responders could be mobilized. The question is whether the cleanup and containment provided would function to effectively contain and clean up spills under realistic ocean conditions. Those include the challenges posed by currents, winds, waves, sea state, and visibility, as well as those presented by nighttime operations, detection and mobilization delays, changing spill trajectories, and the limits of mechanical recovery once oil has entered the open ocean. One way to understand those limitations is to look at the potential magnitude and geographic scope of a major spill from the project facility. DECOR's spill plan evaluates several worst-case discharge scenarios based on different release mechanisms, including the release of 1,501 barrels, or approximately 63,000 gallons of crude oil from platform Gilda. This is the maximum volume of oil spill identified by federal regulatory agencies and is comparable in magnitude to previous large oil spills that have occurred in California. The spill trajectory modeling results shown on this slide from DECOR's spill plan simulate the spread of a worst-case discharge under conditions yielding the greatest amount of shoreline oiling, assuming no effective spill control or response. In that sense, it illustrates the consequences that DECOR's spill plan is intended to prevent or substantially reduce. Under this simulated no response scenario, floating oil affects approximately 895 square miles of ocean surface and approximately 134 miles of coastline, with shoreline contact occurring within 73 hours of the spill. However, a spill from the project's oil pipeline could occur much closer to shore and would likely reach the shoreline much more quickly and be more difficult to locate and detect than a spill from platform Gilda. This type of spill was not fully evaluated in DECOR's consistency certification. The point of describing this worst-case spill is not because staff predicts that a spill will occur as a result of the proposed project. Rather, it demonstrates the potential geographic scale of a major spill from project infrastructure and the size and the area that response operations could be called upon to address. While DECOR's spill plan describes the substantial response resources it can access to address a spill of this size or smaller, effective containment depends on much more than the availability of these resources. It also depends heavily on how quickly a spill is detected, how rapidly resources can reach the site, whether those resources can operate effectively in the prevailing ocean conditions, and whether sufficient recovery capacity can be sustained as the spill spreads. DECOR's plan identifies some equipment that could arrive at platform Gilda within hours, but much of the equipment needed for a large or prolonged spill would take between 14 to over 200 hours to arrive, and depending on the location and size of the spill, its pattern of spread is likely to arrive too late to prevent shoreline contact. Even if equipment reaches a spill quickly, it must be capable of operating effectively under actual ocean conditions. The mechanical recovery techniques relied on in DECOR's spill plan are known to be limited by wind, waves, currents, visibility, darkness, the spreading of weathering oil, and the logistical difficulties of sustaining a large response. Thus, the availability and arrival of response equipment does not by itself demonstrate that a significant spill could be effectively contained and cleaned up under the conditions that may be encountered in the Santa Barbara Channel. In addition to oil spills, the proposed project poses a risk of spills of fracking fluids and other hazardous substances as well. During active fracking, the wellbore could contain nearly 60,000 gallons of toxic chemical containing slurry being pumped at rates of 12 to 25 barrels per minute. DECOR has prepared a project-specific spill prevention, control, and countermeasure plan for these materials that would help prevent and address many localized spills. However, it does not establish a worst-case release of fracking fluids or demonstrate how effective containment cleanup would be provided for a larger release. If a spill does reach the ocean, DECOR's response appears to rely on natural dilution and dispersion rather than on active containment and cleanup. However, dilution and dispersion are not the same as active or effective containment and cleanup required by Section 30232. These processes simply redistribute contaminants rather than removing them from the marine environment. Staff's analysis of DECOR's ability to provide effective cleanup and containment is also informed by actual experience from oil spills offshore of California in recent years. These incidents provide real-world evidence of two key points relevant to the proposed project and the requirements of Section 30232. First, they demonstrate that significant failures can occur despite the same types of inspection, maintenance, spill prevention programs, and regulatory oversight that would be carried out as part of the proposed project. And second, they show that once oil enters the marine environment, effective containment and cleanup is extremely difficult. Although many of them have relied on the same types of techniques and equipment proposed to be used by DECOR, no major oil spill in California has been contained and remediated before resulting in adverse impacts to coastal resources. With the Plains pipeline spill at Refugio in 2015, external corrosion of an aging pipeline resulted in the release of over 120,000 gallons of oil, with nearly half reaching the coast and ocean. Despite implementation of a certified response plan, shoreline cleanup was only partially successful. Oil affected more than 25 miles of Santa Barbara County coastline and was ultimately documented more than 100 miles from the release location. The spill resulted in fisheries closures, wildlife mortality, habitat impacts, and significant impacts to coastal access and recreation. The significance of Plains spill for the current DECOR project is not that the response was mismanaged, it was that even a highly resourced response did not prevent widespread coastal resource impacts. The 2021 Amplify pipeline spill off of Huntington Beach provides another example. Approximately 25,000 gallons were released following damage to a seafloor pipeline from an anchor strike. Nighttime visibility prevented confirmation of the initially reported sheen, and later severe weather forced active cleanup operations to be suspended. The spill resulted in beach closures, fisheries closures, wildlife impacts, and substantial cleanup challenges. And finally, DECOR's own Pipeline 0919 incident offshore of Huntington Beach in 2021 is also relevant. Though smaller, at approximately 170 gallons, this spill involved a leak from a seafloor oil pipeline triggered by internal corrosion that had gone undetected despite existing inspection and monitoring. A large oil sheen was detected on the ocean's surface and skimming operations ensued. Adverse weather delayed divers attempting to confirm the source of the leak and hampered the repair of the pipeline. Staff considers this incident relevant because Platform Gilda's export pipeline is also an aging seafloor oil pipeline operated by DECOR under a comparable integrity management regime. In summary, to help ensure that the damage and disruption to coastal resources and uses of such accidental spills are avoided and minimized, Section 30232 requires effective spill cleanup and containment to be provided for projects such as the current one. However, research and direct experience with oil spills in recent years shows that this standard cannot be met using oil spill response strategies typically deployed and proposed here by DECOR. In practice, the effectiveness of spill response and containment efforts is severely limited by weather, currents, visibility, and wave conditions, and the equipment and techniques proposed by DECOR in its spill plan have been shown to be unable to adequately address these limitations. Thus, the proposed project is not consistent with Section 30232. Next slide, please. The proposed fracking program would materially increase the risk of a spill of crude oil and other hazardous substances by extending and intensifying the use of aging infrastructure. This increase in oil spill risk, in turn, increases the potential for downstream impacts to coastal resources and uses in the Santa Barbara Channel and leads to its inconsistency with multiple other CCMP policies. The project would not maintain the quality of coastal waters or provide special protection for the areas of biological, economic significance in the Santa Barbara Channel and vicinity as required by the CCMP's Marine Biological Resource Protection policies. It will also put at risk important fishing grounds in immediate proximity to Platform Gilda that generated nearly $12 million in commercial landings from 2015 to 2024, as well as other fishing grounds in the broader region, inconsistent with the CCMP's commercial and recreational fishing protection policies. Further, the project would be inconsistent with the CCMP's policies requiring coastal access and recreational resources to be protected, because it would increase the risk of oil spills and related beach and ocean safety closures. Protection for coastal resources is provided by eliminating or reducing risks, not by increasing them. Additionally, the project would be inconsistent with the CCMP's hazards policies, as it would involve the intensified and extended use of the platform, wells, and pipelines located in an area subject to seismic and coastal hazards. The applicant has not demonstrated that project infrastructure is designed to minimize hazards and assure stability and structural integrity against strong ground shaking during a major earthquake, a large tsunami, or coastal hazards such as storms and shoreline erosion over the life of the project. Similarly, the applicant has not demonstrated how the project would minimize fire and explosion hazards at Platform Gilda during the proposed expanded oil and gas production. Next slide, please. In closing, staff recommends that the Commission object to DECOR's consistency certification because DECOR has not demonstrated that its proposed spill response measures and spill plan would provide effective containment and cleanup under the realistic environmental and operational conditions of the Santa Barbara Channel. As a result, the project would also be inconsistent with policies requiring the protection of marine resources and water quality, commercial and recreational fishing, and public access and recreation. Further, DECOR has not demonstrated that the project's continued reliance on aging infrastructure would minimize hazards and assure structural integrity with respect to seismic ground shaking and fire hazards as required by Section 30253. That concludes my presentation. The motion and resolution can be found on page 6 of our staff report.
Okay. We'll just use hands today, please. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Bishop. Before I request the DECOR representative to come forward, I'll turn to my colleagues and see if there are any ex partes to report. Commissioner Lopez.
Not sure if it qualifies here. Back in March, I did meet with folks from DECOR down in Ventura. I submitted that form to staff in March. Haven't heard from them since, and it was just sort of a meet and greet. They gave me some background on the project, which that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have an additional ex parte to report in addition to the one on file. On Tuesday morning, at around 10 a.m. by phone, for just a few minutes, I spoke to Jared Ficker, the DECOR's representative, and he just expressed that he wished there had been more time to sort of go back and forth about some of the issues that staff raised in their report, but again, appreciated the collaboration. Okay, with that, I will see if the representative from DECOR would like to make a presentation. Hi.
Good morning. My name is Mark Chiconis.
And how much time would you like, Mr. Chiconis?
About 2 minutes.
Certainly.
Good morning. My name is Mark Chiconis. I'm the Director for External Affairs with DECOR. I want to thank the Commission for taking the time today to consider DECOR's request for consistency certification related to the update of our development and production plan for conducting well stimulation activities at Platform Gilda. I'm here today with my colleague Dale Bradley, DECOR's Chief Operating Officer, who helped develop the original application materials. As background, DECOR is a private company headquartered in Oxnard, California. We own and operate 20 of the 27 offshore platforms, including 9 that DECOR manages for the major oil companies and on behalf of the state of California via the State Lands Commission. Before I address the application, I want to take 1 minute to describe the process DECOR initiated with staff. We engaged in early discussions which allowed DECOR to share background information about our general operations and the specific application. We were initially very encouraged and appreciated staff's engagement. Our goal was to provide staff with an understanding of DECOR's dedication to safety, our commitment as a reliable operator, and our belief that the application will be carried out in a manner consistent with the California Coastal Management Program and the Coastal Zone Management Act. Despite providing staff with detailed responses to their formal information requests, which included DECOR's oil spill response plan approved by CDFW, which was subject to previous review by the Commission staff and already suitable for the proposed facility, highly detailed information regarding our current operations in the proposed program, state and federal certifications verifying the structural integrity of Platform Gilda and its pipeline systems, which identify no deficiencies preventing current and future operations, highly detailed information showing how the method we are using does not involve pressurizing any of the existing pipelines and casings, and making it clear that the proposed project does not alter the expected lifespan of Platform Gilda. Unfortunately, your staff recommended an objection to the application. However, DECOR believes that the project application is in fact consistent with the objectives of the proposed CZMA and necessary in the interest of national security. We request that the Coastal Commission approve the consistency certification and find the application is consistent with the policies of the CCMP and the CZMA. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay. With that, I'll move to you, Chris, for public comment.
All right, we do have 2 elected officials signed up to speak. We'll start with Justin Cummings here in the room, and then we'll move online to Salvador Tumamite Ambriz.
Good morning. My name is Justin Cummings, 3rd District County Supervisor, Santa Cruz County. I'm also the co-chair and founder of the Save My Coast Coalition, which is a coalition of cities and counties throughout California who have joined forces to protect our coastal environments, protect our coastal economies, in particular against offshore oil drilling and seabed mining. And I'm here today really to express my appreciation for the staff's recommendation, and I'm asking you all to support the staff recommendation here today. This isn't a question about whether we support offshore oil drilling or not. What we're here today to talk about is whether the proposal and whether the mitigations are consistent with the Coastal Act. And what is clear from the staff's presentation here today is that the mitigations necessary to prevent oil spills, to protect our coastal environments, to protect our fisheries are inadequate. As we've seen and as was presented here today, we have seen that oil spills have significant negative impacts on our coastal environments, and when they occur, they can be very challenging to clean up. The fact that they're relying on dispersion and dilution, it just seems insane given what we've seen in the past when it comes to oil spills. I know that you all today, and as we've been hearing in the news, may be under pressure given that BOEM is trying to decertify our coastal management program here in California, but I'm just asking that you all stay strong and not be intimidated by that, and that you uphold the staff's recommendation. There is the opportunity for DECOR to put in place the mitigations and to commit to making sure that if they move forward with these actions, that they are not going to have oil spills and that they're going to have everything in place. But what we've heard today is that they are not committed to doing that, in which case they should not move forward with these activities. Thank you for your time and appreciate you all.
Thank you. Now moving to Zoom, we have Salvador Tumamite Ambriz from the Barbareño Ventureño Band of Mission Indians.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Haku Haku, greetings everyone. I'm the Tribal Secretary for the Barbareño Ventureño Band of Mission Indians. I'm here supporting the staff's decision to reject DECOR's proposition to establish fracking on our coast. On the Channel Islands Harbor of Costa Ventura is where our tribal hub sits, where our cultural hub is. I am part of a tribe of 200 members strong, and all of our members reject fracking and all oil extractions from our sacred waters in our coast. Clearly here, DECOR has demonstrated that they are not ready or willing or able to, at this time, to prevent and have mitigations for any oil spills, and we've already seen along our coast different hazards and spills of different varieties, including oil itself. I thank Coastal Commission, and I'm grateful for all their work in evaluating and providing information. That Prison Decor is not ready at this time for this preparations. I'd like to thank the public as well for continuing to support the tribe and efforts alongside Coastal Commission to keep our water safe and clear. These waters are home to very sensitive marine life and different plant species underwater, and also contain some very significant importance to our people as well. I'd like to thank you all for your participation in this meeting today and continued protections for our coastal.
Thank you. Moving on, we have a group presentation from the Environmental Defense Center and the Center for Biological Diversity. There are 5 speakers, both in person and on Zoom. We'll start with Maggie Hall, Ryan Smith, Kristen Monsell, Lauren Parch, and Brady Bradshaw. And we have your presentation. Bringing it up.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harmon and Commissioners. I'm Maggie Hall, Deputy Chief Counsel at the Environmental Defense Center based in Santa Barbara. Our group will collectively comment on behalf of EDC, Center for Biological Diversity, Santa Barbara Channel Keeper, and Wish Toyo Foundation. We urge the Commission to object to DECOR's consistency certification following staff's well-supported recommendation. Next slide, please. As a preliminary matter, this project should not even be on the table. Our organizations litigated to keep fracking out of our ocean for nearly a decade. Alongside the Coastal Commission, we secured a federal court injunction in EDC versus BOEM that prohibits the federal government from approving offshore well stimulation treatments, including fracking, until it complies with environmental laws, and it has not done so. We nonetheless agree that the Commission should act on this agenda item and object. Next slide, please. DECOR's proposal to frack from Platform Gilda is inconsistent with numerous Coastal Act policies, as staff described. I will address the first 2 on this list. Next slide, please. First, staff correctly concludes that the project would materially increase the risk of a spill of crude oil and other hazardous substances by extending and intensifying the use of aging infrastructure. On top of oil spills, the project introduces a new risk: the release of highly toxic fracking fluids into our marine environment. And DECOR is ill-equipped to deal with these risks because it does not have effective containment and cleanup measures in place, which gives rise to an inconsistency with Coastal Act Section 30232. Next slide, please. These spills also threaten marine life in coastal waters. The Santa Barbara Channel can readily be considered an area of special biological and economic significance, and our region has seen time and again that the impacts of oil spills are devastating. Even DECOR's planned discharges from the platform are a threat because they could contain remnant fracking fluids. These spills and discharges, may I briefly conclude, threaten sensitive wildlife like sea otters, birds, and whales, and would degrade coastal water quality. Accordingly, the project is inconsistent with Coastal Act Section 30230 and 30231. I'll hand it over to Ryan. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Smith, and I'm a legal fellow with the Environmental Defense Center. My comments will focus on 2 policy areas: fishing and public access and recreation. Next slide, please. Section 302.34.5 of the Coastal Act requires that the economic, commercial, and recreational importance of fishing activities shall be recognized and protected. This is especially important in Santa Barbara County, where fishing generates tens of millions of dollars in landings each year and supports the broader coastal economy. An oil spill or fracking chemical release could devastate this industry. The 2015 Plains oil spill, which is comparable to the worst-case spill scenario from Platform Gilda, closed 138 square miles of fishing grounds for 6 weeks, caused at least 184 million damages to the fishing industry, and created lingering stigma around local seafood. DECOR knows this risk firsthand. In 2021, one of its subsea pipelines ruptured, spilling oil and temporarily precluding commercial and recreational fishing. Blue Tomorrow, an environmental consulting firm EDC retained to assess fracking risks, found that fracking fluids are highly toxic, that accidental releases could harm the marine environment, and that mixing multiple fluids could increase those impacts. Yet Decor's proposal fails to address the risks its fracking operations pose to fishing. Next slide, please. In addition, sections 30210, 30213, and 30220 protect public access and coastal recreation. Oil and chemical spills can shut down beaches and prevent activities like surfing, swimming, and other forms of recreation. The 2015 plane spill alone resulted in an estimated 140,000 lost recreational user days. By prolonging the risk of oil spills and introducing the additional risk of fracking chemical releases, Decor's proposal threatens public access and coastal recreation and is inconsistent with the Coastal Act's enforceable policies. Thank you.
The Center for Biological Diversity, and my comments will address the project's inconsistency with the Coastal Act's hazards policy. Next slide, please. Decor has failed to demonstrate that this project, which relies on 45-year-old platforms and its associated aging infrastructure, would minimize hazards and assure stability and structural integrity over the life of the project as required by the Coastal Act. Platform Gilda and its infrastructure are located near several active faults capable of producing significant earthquakes. Yet the structures were not even designed to withstand the anticipated level of ground shaking that could occur at the project location during an earthquake. And recent studies show that fracking can trigger earthquakes miles from the injection site. Moreover, the staff report points to additional hazards such as coastal flooding, erosion, and tsunamis, and shows that Decor has not demonstrated that the project would minimize fire hazards. Accordingly, we support the staff's conclusion that the project would be inconsistent with Coastal Act sections 30253A and B because Decor has not demonstrated that the project would minimize hazards and assure stability and structural integrity over its lifetime. Next slide, please. In addition, section 30244 requires reasonable mitigation where development could adversely affect certain archaeological and other cultural resources. Decor's consistency certification dismisses this requirement by missing the broader impacts of an oil spill. The coast and waters of the surrounding counties near the project area contain historical and cultural sites important to the Chumash peoples who have called this area home for thousands of years. Past oil spills have disrupted fishing, prevented access to ancient village sites, interfered with ceremonies, and prevented use of traditional Tamil launch sites. Decor has failed to provide sufficient information to assess consistency with the Coastal Act's cultural resources policy, which provides additional grounds for objection. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Lauren.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Parch, and I'm a staff attorney with the Environmental Defense Center. My comments address why offshore fracking is inconsistent with the Coastal Act's air quality and environmentally sensitive habitat area policies. Next slide, please. Section 30253C requires new development to be consistent with requirements imposed by an air pollution control district. Because the project would increase and change air emissions, Decor must obtain a new permit from Ventura County Air Pollution Control District. The district itself has stated new source review will be required. Until Decor satisfies the district's permitting requirements, the project does not demonstrate consistency with Section 30253C. Compliance is particularly important because increased emissions could significantly affect coastal communities. Platform Gilda is located in a region that already fails to meet ozone standards, and it would generate additional toxic emissions, increase heavy-duty truck traffic, and disproportionately burden low-income communities of color. Next slide, please. Section 30240 requires that environmentally sensitive habitat areas, or ESHA, be protected from significant disruption of habitat values. Pipelines transport oil from Platform Gilda to the Mandalay onshore facility in Oxnard, which is surrounded by ESHA. A leak from those pipelines could devastate coastal habitat. In addition to increasing the potential for spills, extending Platform Gilda's life would necessitate future maintenance, repairs, and possibly replacement of the aging pipelines and onshore infrastructure components. Such work would be physically disruptive to those surrounding sensitive habitats. Accordingly, the project is also inconsistent with Coastal Act Section 30240. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brady Bradshaw, and I'm the Senior Oceans Campaigner with the Center for Biological Diversity. Next slide, please. You've heard from my colleagues about the applicable Coastal Act policies, and their remarks all lead to the same conclusion. Offshore fracking at Platform Gilda is inconsistent with multiple policies of California's Coastal Management Program, and the Commission should object to DECOR's consistency certification. No other outcome is warranted, given the inherently risky and dangerous practice of fracking in the marine environment. This project would extend operation of Platform Gilda and associated infrastructure, which will prolong and intensify the many risks and impacts of offshore drilling. California's coast has suffered repeated harm from oil industry activities that show that the impacts can be devastating. For example, the 1969 Santa Barbara oil spill and the 2015 Plains All-American oil spill at Refugio Beach show that the impacts of oil spills are far-reaching and long-lasting. Once oil is spilled into the ocean, it is virtually impossible to fully contain and clean up. Adding in highly toxic chemicals injected at extreme pressures only brings additional risks to the coastal communities, wildlife, and the environment. Oil and toxic chemical spills could harm marine life, degrade water quality, and close fishing grounds and beaches. They threaten commercial and recreational fishing, public access, and recreation. Offshore fracking also presents additional hazards to the coast in an already active fault environment, as well as impacts to cultural resources and places of profound importance to the Chumash tribes. The project also raises concerns about increased air emissions, impacts to communities already burdened by poor air quality, and ongoing threats to environmentally sensitive habitat areas near DECOR's onshore facilities. For all of these reasons, and for all the reasons detailed in the staff's report, we urge the Commission to follow staff's recommendation and object to DECOR's consistency certification. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have about 30 speakers remaining, both in person and on Zoom. We're going to continue with our in-person speakers, starting with Katie Thompson, Susan Jordan, Leah Yananton, and Matt Collar. Katie Thompson is first. And then if you've heard your name, please start gathering near the mic. Katie Thompson.
Hi, good morning again. I'm Katie Thompson from Save Our Shores, and I'm here today to object to fracking at Platform Gilda and support the staff's recommendation to deny the project. What happens at Platform Gilda doesn't stay there. Oil spreads with currents and tides. Coastal communities up and down the state share that risk. For the same reason Save Our Shores supports the Coastal Management Program broadly, the state's job is to say no when a project seriously endangers the coast, and this is exactly that case. As stated in the presentations, courts have already banned offshore fracking, and this proposal flies in the face of that ban. This project would pose unacceptable risks to wildlife, public health, cultural resources, coastal economies, and climate goals. Furthermore, Platform Gilda is past its expected lifespan, and fracking would extend the life of dangerously old equipment. All of this poses continued escalating risk of a major spill and could be potentially deadly for wildlife and workers. There has been a fast-track federal environmental review that has undermined public participation in this project. California agencies now need to step in where the federal process fell short. Also, toxic impacts don't end at sea. Onshore processing of fracked oil and gas burdens communities like Oxnard, already historically harmed by petrochemical facilities. I urge the Commission to follow staff's recommendation and deny the project. Thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you. Susan Jordan, Leah Yananton, Matt Collar.
Susan Jordan, the Director of the California Coastal Protection Network.
For years, I have understood how important the Commission's Federal Consistency Authority is to its ability to protect the California coast, whether it's a proposed toll road cutting through a beloved state park in two and destroying a renowned surf break, or a massive liquefied natural gas terminal owned by the largest mining company in the world that would have been moored off the Oxnard coast, probably very close to this operation, for decades, threatening the safety of onshore residents and polluting the air. And now, just as the Trump administration is fixated on eliminating California's Federal Consistency Authority, we have DECOR. DECOR proposes fracking in 16 existing aged wells off the Oxnard coast. These wells have outlived their projected life, and they should have been removed years ago. And let me say that the term fracking does not adequately describe the violent process that forces toxic chemicals into the wells under high pressure to break through the rocks that block recovery of the remaining oil. To my thinking, DECOR is the poster child for why this commission must retain its jurisdiction and ability to challenge yet another very bad idea that will increase the risk of a spill off our coast. And I want to say, with the Refugio oil spill, which happened where I live in Santa Barbara, I was at a Coastal Commission meeting probably a week or two later. We went for a field trip to Crystal Cove, and I picked up a sample and had it tested by the Department of Fish and Game, and it came back positive for the Refugio oil spill. That is how far and how quickly this oil moves. It doesn't stay in one place. So once again, the public turns to you and asks you to object to this proposal for all the reasons stated by your staff, the Environmental Defense Center, and the Center for Biological Diversity. This project is not consistent with our Certified Coastal Management Plan, and as of now, that is still the law of the land, and we intend to fight to keep it that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leah Yananton, Matt Kohler, and then Logan Getchman.
Hi, good morning. My name is Leah Yananton. I support the staff recommendation to object DECOR's fracking proposal. I drove all night to be here from Los Angeles. I watched the sunrise on the highway this morning. And I want to mention the seismic risks. We have the channel's shelf to break up severe waves that can cause damage. The Santa Barbara Channel depth shelf and islands break up major tsunami waves. But Gilda is right at the shelf. So the shelf mitigating is not a factor. I teach 4th and 5th graders creative writing. I adore children's imaginations, and I asked the students to write something important to them. And what they wrote broke my heart. I did not prompt them. I didn't tell them about Platform Gilda or anything. But I want to read what Claire, age 9, said. Such a shame, a perfectly good planet, trashed. And Bryn, age 9, what would you think about no nature in the world? Everything we have worked for would be wasted. What would you think about a beautiful world that basically had nothing pristine left? I think I would absolutely hate it. So I was wondering if the oil men would be here today, and I see you there, and I ask you to have a conscience and think about the future. We are in a climate crisis. We are in a global warming crisis. Thank you. Protect our home. We are in the Goldilocks zone. It is renewable. It is sustainable. It is irreplaceable. Thank you for upholding coastal management protection program. And I want to say also that the fast-tracked environmental review process for fracking from Platform Gilda undermine public participation in the federal process. California agencies must step in and correct this. I live across the street from an active oil drilling site in Los Angeles. I go to the ocean to get away from it, and it sucks to have to see oil drilling in the ocean too.
Thank you. Matt Kohler, Logan Getchman, and then Sean Burns. Matt Kohler.
Good morning, Chair Harmon and Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
My name is Matt Kohler, and I'm the California Offshore Drilling Campaign Manager for the Surfrider Foundation, here to speak on behalf of our members who work to protect and enjoy California's oceans, waves, and beaches with their friends, families, and communities every single day. We ask that the Commission object to consistency certification CC000126 put forth by DECOR for the proposed hydraulic fracturing activities at Platform Gilda. Offshore fracking is fundamentally inconsistent with California's coastal protection policies and would expose our ocean, coastal communities, and marine resources to unnecessary and unacceptable risks. Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, is a high-risk industrial activity that extends far beyond the impacts of conventional offshore oil production. It increases the likelihood of water pollution, air pollution, and oil spills by placing additional stress on aging offshore infrastructure. Rather than prolonging the operation of aging oil infrastructure by using new extraction techniques, these facilities should be decommissioned and removed. Offshore fracking threatens California's extraordinary marine ecosystem. Chemicals used during well stimulation have been shown to pose serious threats to marine wildlife, including fish, benthic organisms, sea otters, and whales. Air emissions associated with fracking contain hazardous pollutants that threaten public health, while additional oil production inevitably results in more greenhouse gas emissions that undermine California's climate goals. This proposal would increase industrial activity in the Santa Barbara Channel, which is an area of exceptional ecological, economic, and cultural importance. The Coastal Zone Management Act gives California the authority to assure that federally authorized activities are also consistent with the state's coastal policies, and we urge the Commission to support staff's recommendation to deny the consistency certification. Thank you.
Thank you. Logan Getchman, Sean Burns, and then Brett Garrett. Logan Getchman.
Good morning. My name is Logan Getchman, and I'm with the Center for Biological Diversity Oceans Program. Thank you, Chair Harmon and Commissioners, for the opportunity to speak. Today, I gathered with about 50 individuals who showed up to support the Commission and oppose offshore fracking. We acknowledge the dedication of the Commission and your efforts to uphold the law, even while under attack from the current administration. I'm speaking for Agenda Number TH8A in support of the staff recommendation. We cannot allow fracking off of Platform Gilda. If DECOR's estimate for quadrupling oil production is accurate, the severity of a potential oil spill would be substantially more devastating than beforehand. As you all know, the effects of oil spills are disturbing. Animals can experience displacement, suffocation, and death. The toxins can continue to affect wildlife for decades after oil spill response efforts are done. This includes a decreased population, shortened lifespans, spawning failure, and increased infant mortality. Animals that lay eggs, for example, may produce eggs with weak shells and underdeveloped offspring. These side effects are passed to animals small and large, from crustaceans to whales. By extending the use of a platform that has already passed its expected lifespan, you risk the generational well-being of an entire ecosystem. Our ask to the Coastal Commission is that you object to DECOR's consistency certification for the sake of our coast, community, and wildlife.
Thank you. Sean Burns, Brett Garrett, and then Jennifer Savage.
Hello, Coast Commission. My name is Sean Burns. I am born here in Santa Cruz, a local resident, lifelong surfer, daily ocean goer. I'm here representing Save the Waves Coalition. We're an international nonprofit working with surf communities around the world. We recently presented our findings on the surfonomics from a study in Santa Cruz, showing that annual year of surf, just through surfing alone, the economics in Santa Cruz raises around $200 million a year, showing the importance of a healthy surf ecosystem to California's state sport, which is surfing. Shows the value economically as well as culturally. In Ventura, around Ventura, Santa Barbara, Oxnard, there's around 50 surf spots. Some are well known through around the world, such as Rincon, all called the Queen of the Coast, Surfers Point in Ventura, which holds hundreds of youth surf contests, which I was also a part of when I was a younger kid, as well as the Channel Islands, which has some of the best waves on the West Coast, which I maybe should not have mentioned. So It's kind of a secret, but so don't tell anyone. But these waves can all be affected by fracking and offshore oil, creating poor water quality and limiting beach closures, as well as the major hazard of the Godzilla El Nino, creating major destruction along the coast to these pipelines that are well dated. So here today to ask you to accept the staff's recommendations to object this project, keep the oil out of California waves, keep our surf ecosystems clean and thriving, and maintain coastal recreation access. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett Garrett, Jennifer Savage, Jessica Vasquez Mesta.
Good morning, I'm Brett Garrett. I want to thank Mr. Bishop for his excellent presentation this morning, and also thank you to everyone who has shown up to support the staff recommendation. There was a large group gathered outside this morning with signs and chants. So please support the 65 or more cities and counties that oppose offshore drilling, and the 69% of Californians that oppose offshore drilling. Gilda is old, Gilda is incredibly dangerous, and Gilda needs to retire. So as we were saying this morning, please beat back that frack attack. You gotta beat back that frack attack. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer Savage, Jessica Vasquez Mesta, and Pauline Seals.
I don't want to compare myself to an oil platform, but I want to be described as old and dangerous someday. So, good morning, Chair Harmon and Commissioners. Jennifer Savage, California Policy Associate Director for the Surfrider Foundation. We urge you to follow staff's recommendation and object to the DCOR consistency certification. DCOR claims that this project falls within the platform's originally approved production limits. That comparison is misleading. The relevant baseline is not a 45-year-old authorization, it's today's operating reality. Platform Gilda currently produces 1,100 barrels a day. That project would quadruple that on infrastructure operating more than double its intended 18-year design life, specifically to keep it running past the point your own staff report says it would otherwise decline and eventually cease. DCOR claims no record of any spillage from prior fracking treatments at this platform. Your staff report is explicit. That claim has not been independently verified, but is an unverified assertion in an application from an operator involved in 2 of the 3 most significant offshore spills in California in the past 5 years. Beyond that, DCOR's own consistency certification doesn't even analyze a spill of well simulation fluids. It doesn't model a pipeline rupture, the most likely failure mode on 45-year-old infrastructure, and relies on natural dilution rather than actual containment and cleanup, which Section 30232 requires. This is not a nuanced situation or a case of environmental extremism, but a straightforward legal obligation. We ask you to stand with your staff report, support the recommendation, the tribal nations, and the people of California, and object to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica Vasquez Mesta, Pauline Seals, Esther Francis.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners and staff. My name is Jessica Itzayana Vasquez Mesta, and I am here on behalf of Azul, an ocean justice organization working with Latinos to protect our blue planet. I'm speaking today to urge the Commission to object the proposal to allow hydraulic fracturing from Platform Gilda in federal waters off Ventura, and to stand firmly against future actions that threaten California's coast. Offshore fracking has already been rejected by federal courts following lawsuits brought by the Coastal Commission and environmental organizations. Yet, the federal administration is moving forward anyway, disregarding those protections and California's long-standing efforts to protect its coast. Platform Gilda poses unacceptable risks to marine life, public health, cultural resources, coastal economies, and our climate goals. And with the platform already beyond its expected lifespan, extending the life of aging offshore infrastructure for more high-risk oil and gas production is simply the wrong direction. It's important to remember that the impacts of offshore oil and gas do not end at the platform, as some of the speakers have mentioned. Communities like Oxnard have already borne disproportionate pollution burdens from fossil fuel infrastructure. Continuing to process fracked oil and gas onshore means asking communities that have already experienced environmental harm to carry even more of the costs while the benefits go elsewhere. The rushed federal environmental review also limited meaningful public participation, California agencies must step in when federal decisions threaten our coast and our communities. We urge you to object to Platform Gilda's proposed fracking and stand up for a healthier, safer, and more equitable California coast. Thank you.
Thank you. Pauline Seals, Esther Francis, and Ashley Drager.
Thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity. I represent 2,000 local people who are part of Santa Cruz Climate Action Network. Thanks very much for your 50 years of protecting the ocean. The coast belongs to everyone, not just the lucky people who live close to it, but also the many thousands of Central Valley people who come to the ocean on weekends to avoid the ever accelerating heat in the valley. Thanks to Mr. Bishop and the staff for excellent details today. That was impressive. Please stand strong against this proposal. The national security claim is clearly bogus. Sadly, it is also will be used, and we will need your help in the not too far distant future to stand against offshore drilling, deep sea mining, and offshore nuclear, all of which are proposed by the same administration. Thank you. Stand strong.
Thank you. Esther Francis, Ashley Drager, Cynthia Denny.
Good moment, and thank you for all that you're doing as protectors. I'm a resident of SoCal. I live 5 minutes away from this beautiful coast. I'm also an omni-faith minister, for the earth is my cathedral. And I'm here to speak on beyond all the incredible data that has been submitted this morning that I ditto 100%. But there's also the sacredness of life itself. And whereas all shores may be sacred, this particular one, it's like a Grand Canyon underneath the Monterey Bay. Just a few minutes from here in Felton, we have the Henry Cow. They're not just forests, they're grandfather forests who have been here for thousands of years. And I just want to speak for them, as well as all the very practical and absolutely essential information that we learned here today, to say no to the fracking, no to the offshore drilling that may be possible, and because it's better to prevent than to say we can come in and make better or try and alleviate. We don't control when the earth shakes. And let's just be preventative and protective. That's why you're here, I think, and why we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley Drager, Cynthia Denny, Vivian Chenkai.
Good morning again, Chair Harmon and Commissioners. Ashley Blako-Drager, I'm Field Campaign Manager with Oceana. I'd first like to thank the Commission staff for their very detailed report. We support the staff recommendation to deny the motion and object to the consistency certification that would allow offshore fracking at Platform Gilda. It's widely recognized that waters off California are a globally significant epicenter of biodiversity. They drive our coastal economies and are critically important to the people of California. Recently, Oceana conducted a series of research expeditions documenting ocean biodiversity in waters off of California's Channel Islands. The first two expeditions alone identified more than 13,000 unique species using cutting-edge environmental DNA analysis. These findings illuminate the need to better understand complex ocean ecosystems to create stronger wildlife protections. Yet this offshore fracking proposal would risk oil spills from well stimulation and increased drilling activity, in addition to exposure to chemicals used in fracking operations, posing an unnecessary risk to this extraordinary wildlife and our fisheries. At least 100 environmental protection organizations, joined by over 8,000 West Coast businesses, have gone on record opposing expanded offshore drilling because it poses risks to California's iconic coast and ocean. More than 80 California cities and counties have adopted resolutions opposing expanded offshore drilling, many of which also explicitly oppose offshore fracking. Also recently, the California State Legislature just passed a Senate joint resolution reaffirming California's commitment to protecting our local economies, our local communities, and our wildlife from the impacts of expanded offshore oil and gas drilling and associated spills. National security experts also say that offshore oil and gas development and the associated spills would impede our military's ability to conduct critical training and testing and compromise military readiness. In closing, I thank you again for your thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Cynthia Denny, Vivian Chiang-Kai, and then Jan Schreiner. Cynthia Denny. I'm not seeing anyone approach the mic. Vivian Chiang-Kai. And these are our last in-person speakers. We'll be moving on to Zoom after that, starting with Bill Woodbridge, Charles Riley, and then Tina Calderon.
Good morning, Chair Harmon and Commissioners, and thank you for taking my comment. My name is Vivian Chiang-Kai, and I am a Save Our Shores volunteer and an environmental studies student at UCSB. As staff stated, the Santa Barbara Channel is home to many unique marine ecosystems and is a primary reason why many appreciate the beauty of Ventura and California as a whole. With how many oil disasters have struck the Southern California coast since the 1960s, DECOR's inadequate infrastructure and fracking would only endanger the qualities that make the California coast unique. Continuing to operate these aging facilities would be detrimental to the numerous environments and communities that live near and in the channel. Please support the staff's recommendation and object to the consistency certification by DECOR and the proposal for fracking from Platform Gilda. Thank you for exercising your authority to protect the California coast.
Thank you. Jan Schreiner. And then a reminder to all our Zoom participants, please keep your video and mic off until it is your turn to speak. So Jan Schreiner, go ahead.
Good morning, I'm Jan Schreiner. I am an elected with the Marina Coast Water District and the Monterey County Democratic Central Committee. However, today the opinions I express are my own and are not authorized by the majority of either of the board or the Central Committee. The fracking process requires proprietary chemical additives, and the industrial wastewater is left untreated to be disposed of in the ocean and the aquifers. The Coastal Commission staff have well highlighted the age and life expectancy of the Gilda infrastructure and concerns for high risk of oil spills and challenges to containment. Please support the staff recommendations. At a minimum, oppose any further activities that damage our oceans, aquifers, and coastline. I urge you as a future agenda item to require removal by 2030 of all coastal and offshore structures related to oil production. And finally, I recognize that earlier my name or the name Marina Coast may have caused some people to believe I was here for a different project proposal, and especially enormous environmental justice issue. But today, it's about fracking and oil production. Thank you for your staff's recommendation, your time, and your patience.
Thank you. One more call for Cynthia Denny, who signed up to be in person. All right, I'm not seeing anyone approach. We'll move on to our Zoom speakers. We'll start with Bill Woodbridge, followed by Charles Riley, and then Tina Calderon. Bill Woodbridge, you go ahead and unmute and begin.
Hi, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you very much for the time. Your staff is to be commended for a great job. What a great job. I really appreciate them. And I hope you will follow through with their recommendations. This project is spurred on only by the ultimate greed from an industry that already makes billions and billions and billions of dollars in profits. You'll notice that 100% of the people who are calling in or speaking today are against this project. I can't believe that anybody would think of using toxic chemicals in the ocean or beneath it that could seep into the ocean or be spilled. This is an extremely sensitive area of the channel and the ocean. We cannot suffer through another loss, regardless of the planning, the prevention methods, and the post-spill proposals. None of that will guarantee that there won't be a spill of oil and, even worse, the chemicals. We can't risk that. There's too much wildlife and fish and recreation and ecological systems that are going to be destroyed yet again by a spill of chemicals or oil. We cannot risk another one. Just take it off the table so that risk is gone. This is aging infrastructure and pipelines way beyond its useful life. It's going to end up in the same thing that happened in Refugio with aging pipelines breaking or bursting, if not worse. I urge you to not allow this applicant to go forward and follow your staff's recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Charles Riley, Tina Calderon, and then Penelope Lapalm. Charles Riley, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Charles Riley, and I'm the Deputy Director of the San Diego chapter of the Sierra Club. We're here in support of the staff recommendation to deny the permit for the offshore oil drilling project. We believe strongly that the California Coastal Management Program has been a gold standard for coastal management across the state, and we want to take the threat seriously from the Trump administration and ensure that we are protecting our coastline, ensuring that any offshore oil rigging drills are rejected and continue to be the gold standard for coastal protection across the country. It is super important that we continue to protect the pristine California coastline, protect our marine ecosystems, and ensure that we are taking the threats seriously of offshore oil drilling. Thank you so much for the time and opportunity today, and we support the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Next, Tina Calderon, Penelope Lapalm, and then Gregory Spooner. Tina Calderon.
Good day, commissioners. My name is Tina Calderon. I'm a Tongva and Chumash culture bearer, and I serve as the Ocean Protectors Program Director at Sacred Places Institute for Indigenous Peoples. SPI is a California Indigenous-led grassroots environmental justice organization based in the unceded ancestral homelands of the Tongva people, also known as Los Angeles, California. Our mission is to build the capacity of Native nations and Indigenous peoples to protect sacred lands, waters, and cultures. Through all of our work, we support Native nations and their ability to reestablish relationships with their ancestral homelands and waters. We at SPI thank the Coastal Commission for your continued efforts to protect our California coast. SPI strongly opposes fracking, as we are fully aware of the environmental harms caused by that violent practice. So we were pleased that the Coastal Commission staff has recommended objecting to the consistency certification by DECOR for fracking from the aging platform Gilda, with thorough review of all potential harmful threats. Exposing our ocean relatives to the noise pollution through dangerous seismic activity, the use of highly toxic chemicals, which could spill into our salt waters, as well as the risk of oil spills, is a horrible gamble. Sacred Places Institute for Indigenous Peoples stands with our Chumash relatives in safeguarding the lands and waters in the Santa Barbara Channel. We urge the Coastal Commission to object DECOR LLC's request to frack from multiple wells off platform Gilda on the Ventura coast. Kakina Liu, I thank you all.
Thank you. Next is Penelope Lapalm, Gregory Spooner, and then Nancy Okada. Penelope, we need you to accept being promoted to panelist. Penelope. All right, we're just gonna try to unmute you as an attendee and see if that works. Are you able to unmute now? Okay, Penelope. You should be able to unmute. All right, we're gonna move on. Gregory Spooner, followed by Nancy Okada, and then Leslie Purcell. Gregory Spooner, go ahead.
Greetings, commissioners. The California Commission charges to protect and enhance California's coast and ocean for present and future generations. The Interior Department proposal, known as the 11th National OCS Oil and Gas Leasing Program, to open coastal areas to new oil and gas extraction projects threatens this charge. The California waters and rigs that we've been discussing today represent only part of this plan. You can't fulfill your mission if you don't help stop this climate crime, both on our coast and elsewhere. Because if all this gas and oil is extracted and burned, the entire California coast will be permanently and irreversibly harmed. How much harm? Well, I'm a physicist representing the local chapter of the climate justice group Scientist Rebellion. So I'm going to get wonky and talk numbers for just a minute. The Interior Department says they plan to extract up to 69 billion barrels of oil and 230 trillion cubic feet of gas in the entire leasing program. I estimate the resulting carbon emissions, if all that fuel is burned, represents 20% of the entire remaining carbon budget that humanity has left. That's 20% of all the carbon we can burn to stay within 1.5 degrees of a safe climate. Others have talked today about the direct coastal harms of oil and gas extraction projects like Platform Gilda, such as oil spills. However, if all that fuel is burned, the warming and emissions will produce other climate-related coastal harms, acidified and oxygen-starved seas, more heat waves lethal to sea life, more extinctions, larger storms, more damaging sea level rise. What can you do? You can push back hard. Give hope and solidarity to other parts of the nation where people are also fighting hard. Lead on this. Use every tool you can. Please help stop this catastrophe for the California coast and for humanity itself. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Next, Nancy Okada, Leslie Purcell, and then Lena Bravo. Nancy Okada.
Good morning, commissioners again. Nancy Okada, Sierra Club California Coastal Committee. Recently on Fox News, Interior Secretary Burgum assured the public that new technology means we will never have oil spills again. We still haven't been able to stop earthquakes. Fracking may trigger earthquakes. Fracking at this seismic location is very, very hazardous. The details can be found in your staff report. Thank you for denying this project.
Thank you. Next, Leslie Purcell, Lena Bravo, and then Anastasia Komarovsk. Leslie Purcell. Leslie, you're in as a panelist already. You should be able to unmute.
Good morning, commissioners. Yeah, I would like to support what Nancy Okada said, also as a member of the Sierra Club's Coastal Committee. And we have a lot of concerns also about the effect on our marine environment. We have the Channel Islands Sanctuary out there, and it's a very special area that is loved by many, many visitors and people of the area as well for wildlife, diving and fishing and recreation. Appreciate the staff's report and recommendation. I would also like to mention, I just noticed a discrepancy between 8A and 8B. I know 8B is postponed, but it cited 14 wells that would be fracked. And the other, the 8A, the one we're discussing now, said
Sorry, Leslie, I think you accidentally got bumped from the meeting. We're gonna move you back in. You can restart your comment.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry about that, Leslie. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't know where I got bumped, but I will just say that I supported the comments by Nancy Okada in terms of the seismic activity and the possibility of harm that could result from that if these wells are fracked as proposed. And we support the staff's recommendations. And the final item that I noticed between 8A and 8B, which 8B is now postponed, but 8A says 16 wells are proposed to be fracked, and 8B said 14 wells. So I don't know where that discrepancy came from, but I appreciate all the work that's being done on this and support the staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that again. Next, Lena Bravo, Anastasia Komarovsk, and then Daryl Gale. Lena Bravo.
Good morning, Commission members. I'm a resident of a coastal community in the Bay Area in California, and I'm speaking today to support the California Coastal Commission and the many previous speakers' objections to fracking on Platform Gilda. We must protect our coastline from industrial interests that would ruin it for short-term gain. The proposal to allow Platform Gilda fracking poses an unacceptable risk to wildlife, federally protected ocean waters, public health, cultural resources, coastal economies, and the climate. We cannot afford to put our coast at continued risk of a major oil spill, which will have deadly consequences for wildlife and coastal communities. The toxic impacts of offshore fracking don't end at the sea. Continued processing onshore of fracked gas and oil will burden communities that have already been historically harmed by petrochemical facilities. Thank you in advance for objecting to opening Platform Gilda to fracking and protecting our coastline communities and the ocean wildlife.
Thank you. Next, Anastasia Komarovsk, followed by Daryl Gale, and then I'll start calling names that we weren't able to find on Zoom. Anastasia Komarovsk. Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, just real quick.
Thank you. Daryl Gale.
Unmuted?
Yes, we can see you and hear you.
Okay. Hello, Commission and people in the audience. Aren't there enough offshore fracking facilities clearly visible along our Ventura Santa Barbara coast? And Gilda, the platform born in 1981? Really? Old pipelines and an aging platform. Why continue and to destabilize further our earthquake-ridden, vulnerable state and coastline? The greed, the psychopathic levels of greed through companies like Exxon, Sable, Chevron, it boggles the mind. Do we need yet another leaking, unmaintained, unmonitored pipeline leak, another platform fire, oil and chemical soaked wildlife? Sorry, Decor, we don't trust you and don't believe you. That's all.
Thank you. Now, next, the names that we weren't able to find on Zoom, we had a list of 5 people that we weren't able to locate. If I call your name, please raise your hand. Penelope LaPalme, Carrie Nichols, Laura Rosenberger Hayter, Marcia Hanscom, and Ted Morton. Okay. Penelope LaPalme, we're trying you again. You should be able to unmute. Penelope LaPalme.
There we go. Hello. I wasn't planning on speaking, but after listening to the presentation about decor, I do oppose it. I also oppose additional fracking and oil drilling along the coast for the reasons other speakers have given. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe Ted Morton is logged in on this account. You should be able to unmute now, Ted.
Hello. Good morning. My name is Ted Morton. I'm the Executive Director of Santa Barbara Channel People, conservation organization dedicated to protecting the Santa Barbara Channel and its watersheds. We work from Point Conception to the Ventura River, from the ridges of the Santa Ynez Mountains to the Northern Channel Islands. Today, we request that you object to the consistency certification submitted by DECOR concerning its updated development and production plan offshore Ventura County. The Santa Barbara Channel is an exceptional ecological area. Cold water currents from the Gulf of Alaska blend with warm waters brought by the Southern California countercurrent from Baja California. The mix of currents support a rich biodiversity of species such as rockfish, sunflower sea stars, California spiny lobster, seabirds, and 27 species of cetaceans. The channel supports commercial and recreational fisheries and tourism. It also holds substantial cultural significance to the Chumash people. Fracking adds substantial risk to the coastal and marine environment, cultural resources, fishing, and the community. This plan will extend the risk of oil spills through continued and more intense use of aging infrastructure, and Santa Barbara is well aware of the devastation of degrading infrastructure. This operation will create risk of discharges and spills of hazardous chemical additives, including those that are very toxic to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. The staff report concludes that the plan is inconsistent with requirements of the Coastal Act to protect marine resources and maintain coastal water quality, along with other charges. It also finds that the standard for spill cleanup and containment cannot be met using the oil spill response strategies typically deployed and proposed in the plan. So, to protect the channel and coast, we urge the Commission to object to the consistency certification. Thank you.
Thank you. Another call for Dr. Carrie Nichols, Laura A. Rosenberger Hayter, Marcia Hanscom, and then in person we are missing Cynthia Denny. If you are here now. All right, I'm seeing no hands raised, no one approaching the mic. Madam Chair, we have no more speakers.
Okay, thank you very much, and many thanks to the public for their testimony. With that, I will return to our staff. Dr. Huckelbridge.
Yes, thanks. I'll just kick it off here. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the members of the public for participating in the hearing today. I also want to acknowledge, as many of the commenters noted, that this federal consistency item is being heard at the same time as the NOAA is reviewing California's coastal management program. That said, the Commission's job today is to consider the consistency certification submitted by DECOR, and deliberation should focus on this topic. I will now pass it to Joe and Jonathan for some additional comments. Owen Cassidy.
Thank you, Dr. Huckelbridge. Just very briefly, regarding potential effects of the proposed project on national security, we note while this is not part of the standard of review for the Commission's decision today, we have reviewed the operational energy reports provided for the U.S. military. These reports indicated that the military uses approximately 250,000 to 300,000 barrels of oil per day, which is orders of magnitude higher than the maximum projected production rate for this project of 4,000 barrels per day.
And before we quit, I just want to briefly address several of the comments made by Mr. Chaconis from DECOR. First, I want to clarify that while it is true our oil spill program staff do provide comments to the California Office of Spill Prevention and Response On some portions of oil spill response plans, our comments are made in an advisory capacity. You know, we seek to strengthen the plan's effectiveness in limiting impacts to coastal resources, but we don't make determinations about the consistency of these plans with CCMP policies, and we don't approve or endorse these plans, you know, in this advisory capacity. I'd also like to respond to Mr. Chaconis' statement that the project would not extend the lifespan of Platform Gilda and the associated infrastructure. Statements contained in both the applicant's supplemental DPP and BOEM's EIS indicate otherwise. They describe the proposed project as needed to achieve economic production rates and well longevity, and that production of the platform would decline and cease sooner in the absence of the project. Further, they project that the project would result in the extraction of roughly 14 million barrels of oil over the next 20 years. Finally, in response to one of the public comments, I just want to clarify that the proposal is to conduct fracking on 16 wells, not 14. And we're available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll begin first just by expressing my gratitude to our staff for their careful and thoughtful work here, and my appreciation to DCOR for engaging in this process in good faith. Of course, I also want to thank the public for their testimony. That's always such an important part of our process. So I'll turn to my colleagues. We're going to take questions and comments at once. If you would please try to catch my attention. I'm going to be keeping a list here of who wants to speak, and I will echo the reminder of Dr. Huckelbridge. Let's please stay focused on the item before us, and I'm looking forward to hearing your comments. I'll begin with Commissioner Wilson.
All right, thanks. I'm just going to go straight to the heart because I don't really have any questions. I think staff report said it all. So I just want to thank the staff and thanks to DCorp for the transparent communication and good working relationship. It's very important, and especially in this day and age. And this is about a risk that's created by an extraction technology and spill response capacity. And in my mind, the operator is pretty irrelevant in that. It's just the conditions. And we know that hydraulic fracturing works by injecting fluid at high pressure into rock and to hold it open, and that physical process adds mechanical stress to whatever infrastructure runs through it, wells, wellheads, flow lines, regardless of who operates it or how carefully. And I'm concerned that layering that stress and increasing the flows through 45-year-old infrastructure really creates unreasonable risk of failure. Fracking fluid itself is a distinct hazard class and has extreme aquatic toxicity. And so the proposed fracking technology and aged infrastructure just doesn't guarantee that coastal resources will be adequately protected. And I'm just going to go through so I can just make the findings and make it as clean as I can here. Section 30232 has two independent tests. There's the protection against spillage and the effective containment and cleanup. And from the staff report, I can surmise that mechanical recovery at sea typically captures only 10 to 20% of spilled oil under real-world conditions. And that is a limit of the response technology itself, not a failure of planning. So I think it's important to understand that just the limitations of what we know and what has been and the performance of these technologies and responses in the past. The Santa Barbara Channel currents, weather, and distance from shore compound that. There's just really no worst case scenario exists for a pipeline release, and I think that was expressed by staff. And so I think we need to just talk about for a minute what is actually being put at risk. I'll start with marine resources. Section 30230 requires that marine resources be maintained, enhanced, where feasible, and restored, with special protection given to areas of special biological and economic significance. And Section 30231 requires maintenance of biological productivity in our coastal waters. And this is in an area that is the Santa Barbara Channel and Channel Islands. So there's a National Marine Sanctuary, there's National Park, marine reserves, And this is precisely the areas that these sections single out for special protection, and this is not an area to consider for these significant risks, in my mind. Commercial and recreational fishing is also something to be considered. Section 30234.5 requires that the economic, commercial, and recreational importance of fishing activities be recognized and protected, and Section 30234 requires protection of the facilities and that are used by that. And so in any significant spill, there would be risk to these resources. Also called out by staff is hazards, and that's specific to Section 30253B, requires that new development, in this case, assure stability and structural integrity. And I think this is really important. The platform's seismic design does not meet current USGS earthquake projections for the area and doesn't meet current engineering standards used for comparable hazardous materials facilities. And these structural vulnerabilities create unreasonable risk of spills and accidents. And I just think that basically it's a risk profile. Aging technology, stressed infrastructure paired with spill response methods that are predicted to not be adequate in real world conditions really gets us to the place where this is where we're at. And just really that basically requires a finding of inconsistency with Section 30232. So I would just kind of want to say that the benefit side of this ledger is also, in my mind, limited. It was mentioned by staff that the amount of resource seems to be pretty small relative to the amount of risk to the coastal resources. And I mean, what I meant by that is energy resources very limited compared to the risk to our coastal resources, and both natural and economic. And I also want to acknowledge and align myself with some of the climate concerns expressed by the members of the public, but I really want to focus more on the Section 3 part of what we're talking about. So this is why I believe staff got it right and the findings are clear, and why I'll be voting no on the motion to concur with the requested consistency certification. And that's what I have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Nada.
Thank you, and thank you to staff for the focused analysis on the proposal before us, and to the public that has made such an effort and compelling cases. In California, following the 1989 Exxon Valdez spill, and then in Alaska, and then that was followed by the American Trader spill off of Huntington Beach in 1990, the state legislature adopted the California Oil Spill Prevention and Response Act. After that was enacted, that empowered the Department of Fish and Game to set up a new Office of Oil Spill Prevention and Response. And as part of setting that up, I was appointed to the Oil Spill Prevention and Response Technical Advisory Committee at that time. And as we started to build California's capacity to prevent and respond to oil spills. And I want to say that sadly, the technology to contain and clean up an open ocean spill has really progressed not much since then. And so we saw in 2010, the Deepwater Horizon in the Gulf, how difficult it was to stop and then clean that up. And we have not, that kind of technology has not progressed sufficiently to reduce this kind of risk of extending this 45-year-old platform and the operations there to be safe to operate in such a biologically significant area. So for those and other reasons, I will be voting no on determining consistency. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Preciado.
I wanted to ask staff
if any of the analysis undertaken in light of the discussion of quadrupling the supply that is now running through the pipeline was centered on pipeline reliability in transporting other fluids and other pipelines, that would present a major change in the normal operation of a pipeline. And I'm just wondering how it's even possible to produce or suggest that you're going to put on such an aged facility more, shall we say, fluid, and put it at higher pressure to move it around. So I'm just wondering if there's any studies that were done on the pipelines to quantify the stress and the age of the pipelines.
Thank you, Commissioner Preciado. I do want to note that there's two parts to this. There is, as you rightly point out, the age of the facility is an important factor, considering potential accumulation of corrosion over the years and the additional strain that this increased flow would put that infrastructure through. That said, the design flow rate for this seafloor pipeline was significantly higher than the 1,000 barrels, 1,100 barrels per day flowing through it now, and the 4,000 barrels per day that is projected. In other words, when this pipeline was first installed over 40 years ago and the platform was installed, it was producing at a much higher rate. And so the kind of pressure and throughput that it was built for was much higher than even would be achieved after this project. So hopefully that's helpful.
Related to that, there was an indication from the D4 representative that the major facility has some sort of certification that it's safe. And I wonder if the certification happened before or after it would have this new activity, meaning is it certified for the new activity or is it certified for its existing activity?
That may be a question best directed to DCOR, but what I will say is that there is a significant amount of oversight by the federal government over these facilities and maintenance regimes, as we've noted in the staff report and presentation today. Maintenance inspection protocols, adherence to those is expected to occur. However, as we also noted, despite those, we've seen, in the last 5 years, several other significant oil spills, and so those aren't perfect protections against a spill and an accident.
Thank you. Those were my clarifying questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. I want to align myself with the comments of Commissioners Notoff and Wilson. I want to really thank our staff. Mr. Bishop, really excellent job in analyzing this consistency determination. I think you've got it spot on. I will, because I promised to keep it brief, I don't have anything substantive to add because of how good of a job you did. I do want to recognize the efforts of all of the folks that came out here today from the NGO community. We have EDC, CBD, Channel Keeper Azul, Surfrider. I not only appreciate your comments and advocacy today, but I want to appreciate all the previous work that you've done, securing some of the crucial legal decisions that allow us to do the work that we do here as well. And I want to recognize also that these organizations come to the table. It's part of this, them and their organizations, part of this fight as long as we have in the commission here, with often very few resources other than the savvy and sort of legal acumen of them. And so just want to appreciate your continuing efforts, and I would say to the staff and those of you who showed up to advocate today, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Vice Chair Hart.
Thanks so much. I wanted to align myself with the comments of my fellow commissioners and also thank the public so much for all of the comments. I'm going to make a few statements that are somewhat repetitive with what has already been stated, but I want to state them from the dais so that I can make it clear that in any event, this is these are the points that I think are most important. First of all, I want to say that the staff report appropriately concluded the project is inconsistent with the enforceable policies of the CCMP. Platform Gildan, its infrastructure, been operating for 45 years over 2 times their anticipated lifespan. And without this fracking project, the platform would continue to decline in production, cease operations. Continuing and intensifying production on this aging infrastructure clearly threatens the California coast with the risk of more oil spills, but the risk of and also significantly the risk of spills of toxic fracking fluids. The staff report, I believe, correctly concludes the proposed fracking program would materially increase the risk of a spill of crude oil and other hazardous substances by extending and intensifying the use of aging infrastructure. And DECOR has not demonstrated, as the staff, as you said, Mr. Bishop, effective containment and cleanup measures in place in the event of such a spill, which gives rise to an inconsistency with Section 302.32 of the Coastal Act. As staff has stated, DECOR's facilities have been involved in 3 significant oil spill incidents in California in the past several years. I consider that to be a very bad sign in terms of what the future might bring. The impacts posed by fracking at Platform Gilda, including the risk of another spill, are unacceptable. The risk of an oil spill and other toxic substances clearly threaten the incredible biological productivity of the Santa Barbara Channel region and its many sensitive species, including whales, seabirds, and fish. The discharge of produced water, which may contain extremely toxic fracking fluids, further threatens marine life. Offshore fracking could impair commercial and recreational fishing. Testimony today talked about the significant economic impact that would have. It would contribute to coastal hazards and impede public access and recreation. And for all of these reasons, the project's inconsistent with the many policies of the CCMP. Fracking fluid contains hundreds of chemicals, including known carcinogens, heavy metals, and endocrine disruptors. Many components lack complete toxicological data, but 157 evaluated substances are linked to reproductive or developmental toxicity, posing major risks if they reach drinking water or air. Well stimulation treatments, in this case fracking, include oil extraction techniques that allow oil production to continue from wells with declining reservoirs and prolong drilling operations. I wanted to turn to staff for a minute because I want you to talk for a second about the status of the law with the Ninth Circuit injunction and how you discussed it in the staff report, but I thought it would be worth clarifying the state of the current injunction and how you see this fitting into that in terms of its legality. And then I'll have a couple more comments.
Yes, Commissioner Hart. So this project stems from that prior litigation that resulted in the Ninth Circuit decision. And really what was at issue was that the BOEM had prepared an environmental assessment for a program for its own review and authorization of well fracking on the Pacific Outer Continental Shelf. But that environmental analysis did not lead to any further NEPA review. They just issued the final, the FONSI, no significant impact finding. And so that was challenged in that litigation. And in that decision, the Ninth Circuit found that that BOEM had failed to comply with NEPA, but also with the CZMA and the Endangered Species Act. And with respect to NEPA, the court found that the EA was deficient primarily because it did not, I think, evaluate the toxicity of the well stimulation fluids sufficiently. And so that the court felt that that was inadequate in the EA and required an EIS, so the next level of environmental review under NEPA. But additionally, the court also recognized that there was an obligation for BOEM to prepare its own CZMA review document, which is called a consistency determination, because BOEM itself was proposing a program that would result in its kind of approval of well stimulation treatment programs all across all the platforms in the outer continental shelf. So that was another part of the decision, was that BOEM needed to prepare a consistency determination for that program. And that's sort of all kind of what led us here today with, well, first, BOEM had prepared a consistency determination initially for the Commission's review to be heard alongside this consistency certification by DCOR. They both were for the same identical project, which we pointed out to BOEM was improper. And actually that consistency determination didn't actually relate to the federal project that the Ninth Circuit said required a consistency determination. So I don't know where that leaves that litigation and where it all kind of stands now. But the trial court did issue an injunction following the Ninth Circuit to require BOEM to do that NEPA review and to do the CZMA review. And so we understand now from BOEM that they intend not to pursue that federal program anymore. So they're not going to move forward with this program to develop a set of regulations or rules or whatever it might be for their program to review other well stimulation treatments. Presumably that means then that these projects will just kind of proceed one by one. And so that's like why DCOR is here before us today. But what that means with respect to compliance with the underlying injunction and the Ninth Circuit decision, I think that's a little bit unclear at this point. And so we're just really, I mean, that was part of the concern that we had, was that it didn't seem to be proper based on the way that the court envisioned this whole program working with BOEM approving projects and then the projects going forward separately under that program. And so it's kind of not proceeding the way that the Ninth Circuit intended. But beyond that, I don't know that I would want to kind of provide an analysis of where things go from there and whether that injunction is now kind of not being complied with, or what the next steps are in that whole legal review. But for us today, we're looking at, we've proceeded to look at the consistency certification on the merits.
Thanks so much. So I think I think that it was very important that we proceeded today, but there is currently an injunction that covers the sort of program, and now they're proposing one project within the program. However, the injunction still applies. Nevertheless, I understand why staff moved forward, but I do think it's highly relevant that in the Ninth Circuit decision, the reason that an injunction was issued was because of many of the factors that are that we are raising today that cause our concern and find this inconsistency. Finally, I just want to talk and refer briefly to the national security issue. I wanted to appreciate staff's analysis of that in the addendum, which I thought was excellent. I also want to refer to a letter that was part of the correspondence filed by Dr. Pasha Mahdavi, who appears to be very, this appears to be, have long been her area of focus, where she talks about the impact of this fracking project, and among the other things, she states that if it were to move forward as proposed, it would account for roughly 0.0009% of projected global oil consumption, or basically, in the case of prices, she says approval of the fracking proposal at Platform Gilda would at best reduce long-term prices by 0.001 cent per barrel, or roughly 1/10 of 1 penny. With regard to the national security issue, she makes some points that I think are worth paying attention to, and I want to incorporate as important to my decision, although I understand national security is not the issue before us, but nevertheless, that this would essentially have no impact whatsoever on national security, given the way U.S. military purchases fuel, where fuel comes from, et cetera. And that's all laid out in her letter, which I wanted to reference. I also just want to talk for a second about the earthquake risk here. Fracking has been linked in a number of peer-reviewed scientific papers to earthquakes. We have an area that is highly susceptible because of earthquake faults that run through the area. And that, as well as the pending super El Nino and future high wave events, makes this project even more concerning and inconsistent with the Coastal Zone Management Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for everybody who participated today. It's interesting. I was sitting there watching the slide presentation from DCOR, and I find myself, as I get older, increasingly amazed at what humans are capable of, the ingenuity, the engineering, and the extraordinary lengths we go through to make something like offshore fracking even possible. And as I try to teach my teenage boys, just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should. And this is just simply one of those cases where the juice isn't worth the squeeze, to put it simple. DCOR's proposal relies on old offshore platform, aging equipment, and pipelines that transport oil to shore. That creates far too many opportunities for something to go wrong. And when something does go wrong, it's our ocean, beaches, wildlife, and coastal economy that pay the price. I appreciate my colleagues' comments, align myself with all of those, staff's excellent work, and I appreciate the thorough process, DCOR's participation, and the many members of the public who took time to share their perspective. That thoughtful engagement from all sides does matter, especially when the stakes are so high. I respect the engineering, and as I said, I'm awed by engineers and engineering, particularly as I get older and more curious, but I'm not willing to risk our coast to push more oil through this aging infrastructure. And I'll be also voting in support of staff's recommendation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, well, I'll just add my own comments very briefly here. I will join my colleagues, in particular the comments of Commissioner Wilson and Vice Chair Hart, who both well articulated the findings, and those are the same findings on which I'm basing my own decision today. I think staff's recommendation is well supported here. The age of the infrastructure is really notable to me here. 45 years is a very long time, and the impacts of the ongoing and intensifying operations on that aging infrastructure. Of course, the impacts of a potential spill, these impacts on our marine environment are not adequately mitigated for, and of course, the containment and cleanup measures are not sufficient, as well described by my colleagues and by staff. I want to join Vice Chair Hart in noting that I'm also particularly concerned about hazards under Section 30253, namely the seismicity risk. The proximity of faults to this platform is an important consideration, and I agree with our staff's analysis that the project's continued and intensified use of this platform, they haven't demonstrated an ability to minimize hazards and to assure stability and structural integrity as is required under Section 30253, such that I could find it consistent. So for these and the reasons articulated in the staff report, I agree with our staff's recommendation and will be finding that the project is inconsistent with the enforceable policies of the CCMP. I join Commissioner Jackson in expressing my appreciation for the collaborative work and for the public in sharing their testimony as well. With that, I will look to my colleagues for a motion.
Happy to make a motion. I move that the Commission concur with consistency certification CC-0001-26 on the grounds that the project described herein is consistent with the enforceable policies of the California Coastal Management Program, and I recommend a no vote.
Second.
Thank you. That's a motion by Commissioner Wilson, a second by Commissioner Notoff. They're asking for a no vote. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hart.
No.
Hart, no. Commissioner Jackson.
No.
Jackson, no. Commissioner Kelly.
No.
Kelly, no. Commissioner Lopez.
No.
Lopez, no. Commissioner Nothoff.
No.
Nothoff, no. Commissioner Preciado?
No.
Preciado, no. Commissioner Wilson?
No.
Wilson, no. Commissioner O'Malley?
No.
O'Malley, no. Chair Harmon?
No.
Harmon, no. The vote is unanimous.
Thank you. So with that, we will be breaking for lunch. And I'm looking at Ms. Warren will be about an hour?
Yes, you will have closed session about an hour.
Okay, so I will recommend that we return at 1:30. Thank you.
Where's the